Howdy, 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 and welcome to a very special episode of the Dirt Info Podcast. I'm joined by none other than the Iceman, Alex Williamson. Thanks for joining, Alex.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm super pumped actually. So this is gonna I hope this is super fun. But I'm gonna jump into all of this. We'll talk about all of this in just a second. But just a quick introduction. Um Alex is a modified racer, and he's also the builder of the Bomb by 15W modified and B mod chassis, and also the operator of Windy Ridge Performance and Parts. In just a couple of weeks here, Alex will be going down to the Dome to compete in the Gateway Dirt Nationals for the second straight year. And also previously in the season, Alex finished fifth in the Northern Lights Modified Series point standings. And my personal favorite highlight, he passed 11 cars on his way to a podium finish at the big deal at Ogilvy. And he put on a hell of a show with Jody Belfi too, to get it. So that was a hell of a race, bud. Um,
I appreciate it.
of course, man. We appreciate you putting on a show. You definitely do that most of the races you're at. So we'll talk about all of it. But I told you, gave you a rundown of the styling and profiling segment. So I stepped on Rick's introduction, but nonetheless, we'll go ahead and jump into our first segment. And
It's called Stylin and Profile.
thanks, Rick. And if my parents made sure I had anything, it was manners. So as the guest, Alex, I'll let you go first.
So, talking about shop shirt, obviously I'm Alex Williamson, driver of USMTS 15W modified. I was a retired B-mod driver that came back out of retirement for 4 or 5 races this year. But no, just start off with our shop shirt deal. So I own a body shop, full collision repair facility. We are swamped right now with deer hits, but we also do the work. And then, so that's the back half of our shop. The front half is um, race car performance, whatever you want to consider it. We sell Schaefer's oil stuff, Bomb by 15W mods and B mods, full shock service repair. Transmission stuff, rear ends, all kinds of stuff that way. Tires, American Racers, Hoosiers, Aero wheels, real wheels, Bassett wheels.
Heck yeah.
If it's got something to do with the racing world, you name it, we got it.
Heck yeah. And then so you how long have you been doing that? Like I assume it's your own shop. So how long you kind of been out there
Yeah.
doing it on your own?
So I started this whole gig long time ago, but I worked out of my parents' shop up on the hill and shared it with my brothers and my parents and whatnot. And long story short, kind of ran myself out of there. I outgrew it way faster than I thought I was gonna, but ran myself out of there and came down and bought a shop, and I figured it was time to expand. And I did that in 2022, I believe. Been like 2.5 years, so yeah, I think 20, maybe 23. I think February 23, I bought this place. So
Yeah.
um, it was a big jump. I mean, there's a lot of days that's very, very stressful, but I don't know. We've come a long ways. I don't know.
Huh, huh.
It's a dream, that's for sure.
Heck yeah. Dreaming a nightmare sometimes, right? Like
Yeah,
yeah, but hey, you get to tell people you make your own schedule, so there's that. But
yeah,
but all this that's definitely pretty cool. Um
yeah,
so uh and you know, I got to giggle. You said you got run out of there, but that's like the best problem to have is you have too much work too fast. I think that speaks well of the of what you're doing and how well you're doing it. So,
yeah.
right
Absolutely.
on, man. Heck yeah. Well, I'll touch on mine real quick. So mine's a little sentimental. So I'm wearing the Spring Lake Park football shirt. I actually picked this up when I was coaching my youngest. He's now an 11th grader, and full disclosure, he is starting JV and starting scout team. That's the role he plays on this team. But nonetheless, he's on the team, and they're in the final four of Section 5A. So they're playing at the US Bank Stadium this coming Friday, and I'm super pumped. So I wanted to show love for the local high school and my kiddo. So that's pretty cool. So that's the story behind this one for this week. Um, But normally at this point, this is where Carter and I would like give our opinions on racing results and stuff like that. But nobody wants to hear me yap when you're here. So, so I figure a better course of action would be to learn from you and learn about you. And so I'll just start kind of from the top. As far as racing goes, you've got a million and one irons in the fire. But curious what sort of started the fire and how did you come to be so enmeshed in racing?
So honestly, I don't know what the year was. So I was born in '97. I've been going to the races since probably a week after I was born. I mean, I don't know how soon it was, but it was early. My dad raced well before I was born. He was in the Wissota Super Stock deal for a while. He ran street stock, I think, before that, or hobby stock or something of that nature. But ever since I can remember, he was running a super stock, and I don't know. I mean, I was his number one fan. When I was young, that's all I wanted to do. And I knew a lot of people, that they live their whole life and they never know what their purpose is or what they want to do for a living or whatever else. And I knew by the time I was 5 years old that I wanted to be a race car driver. That was my big thing. And I remember my dad owns a business, just like me. That's why I chose the life that I have. My dad owns a video game business with pool tables and jukeboxes and whatnot and
Okay.
bars. So he was always on the road. And when I was young, I wanted to go to races, and back then I didn't understand the whole aspect of everything, obviously. So I was mad if it was noon on Friday and we weren't getting ready to go to races. Like, what are we doing here, And um, I don't know. So he got me into it young, and I remember, the nights at Fountain City, Deer Creek, Cedar Lake. It was so special to me, and I think my biggest thing that really pushed me was like when I was, I don't know, probably 10 or 11 years old. I remember my dad being on the road all week long because of work, and I was laying underneath his super stock changing 9-inch gears at 10, 11 years old, trying to make sure he could get to the races and stuff, and I don't know,
Yeah.
2008, I got into the slingshot deal. That was
Uh,
forever ago already.
yeah.
Um,
That was sort of the first step into
yeah,
actually racing was with
yep,
slingshots. Yeah. Was that at Deer
yep.
Creek
So,
and Fountain City and those tracks or
yep,
yeah.
mostly at Fountain City. I remember Don Werner, which is Bob Tim's partner, had a slingshot that he was letting us rent for a couple nights. And I drove it one night. My brother was driving it the next. And I remember driving it the first night. And then the second night, a guy that used to own a salvage company, his kid didn't show up to race. He had football or something. And he came and found my dad. And he's like, "Hey, I don't know who drove that cart last night, but if he's here, I'd like him to drive mine tonight." And I'm like, absolutely,
That's
and
me.
yeah, and being young, at the time, it was just like, on cloud nine, I
Yeah.
loved it. But so I got into that deal and then raced slingshots for, I don't know, three full years, I think. Um, and my mom made this really big mistake. She told me that as soon as I won a points championship, I could move up to a B mod. And I said, no questions asked.
Yeah.
Um,
The deal's a
I
deal. I'm
ran,
gonna do it.
yep, yep. So I literally we went out and won the first 7 nights or 6 nights or something right in a row. And I was smiling ear to ear. I was happy as could be. And
Yeah.
we ended up winning 9 out of 14 races that year and locked up the points championship a couple nights before the end of the season. And I knew that right there that it was kind of time to jump up and take off. And then we got into the USRA mod deal. In 2011 was my first year. Raced that all the way until 2019, and then decided it was time for a modified. I wouldn't like to say we were getting outspent in a B mod because I don't want to think of it that way, but I just feel like I was capped. I was
Mhm.
trying really hard to run with Soda and USRA B mod at the same time, and
Okay.
that's the one difficult thing about my location is like Fountain City is half hour from my shop. Deer Creek's an hour. Menominee is an hour and a half. Jim Falls is like an hour and 15 minutes. Like I'm right centrally located between USRA and Wissota. So I was for a while there, the last year or two in the B-Mod, I was running USRA Friday at Fountain City, and Saturday I would race Wissota Midwest Mod at Deer Creek, and Sunday I would race Wissota Midwest Mod at Duels. So we, we were running as hard as we could, and got into our deal with SSR. And my dad, I don't know, he was following my mom's footsteps, I guess, and made a deal with Jake at SSR that if he could get me to the front in the B-Mod deal, that we would buy a modified. And honestly, I think we only had our SSR 3 or 4 weeks, and we got a win right away. And so then we got into the modified deal, and I was running triple duty actually for a while because I had a late model ride that I was driving, USRA late model ride. We ran that at Fountain City and like Menominee, Cedar Lake. We got 6 or 7 wins in that in 1 year. We were one of the only cars to beat Lance Hofer, which if you know that whole backstory, everybody knows how hard that was to beat Lance Hofer. So that was super cool. And then I got real sick of the triple duty real quick. I think I did it like 5 or 6 nights, and I'm like, this is too much.
So it makes you wonder how Shane Sabraski does it.
I've seen how Shane Sabraski does it. That guy, I have so much respect for him. I see so many people on Facebook complaining and whining about Shane and how good he is and how he shouldn't be in a super stock and this and that. Like, I have so much respect for that guy. You know how hard it is to get in the car. Like, most nights you go run like a USMTS feature, 40 laps, 50 laps, and if it's any bit of a cowboy up racetrack, you are shot when you are done. So for him to do it, 3 cars a night for the last 15 years is unbelievable. But no, long story short, we got into the modified deal, and then I kind of pushed off the B-Mod thing because it just, when you have 700 horsepower, it's really not fun to go back to 300. So I'm like, this is way better. So the respect level was huge. That was my biggest thing with the B-Mod deal. Even running it again this year. We'll get into that later, but I'm so after that respect. Like I like that so much more. So when we got into the mod deal, it fit so well with me, and now we're here. It's 2025, and I'm still kicking.
Kicking, still kind of getting even more into the mod game with the chassis business and the speed shop and everything like that. So right on. Well, I'm sure you've been asked this a bunch, but I have to definitely go there. And also I want to poke fun at Carter. So he's too busy losing his paycheck out in Vegas to be here. But he did bother to send in a question, and he was curious where the nickname Iceman, what's sort of the origin story of that?
So we were racing slingshots. I don't remember if it was my last year in a slingshot. I think it was. There was some out of town people that came in, and they were trying to kind of rule the roost, and they were kind of pushy and pushing people around and whatever else. And I remember I got wiped out. That was the year that I won all them races, and I got wiped out because I had a target on my back. I get it. So I got wiped out, and a guy that does all my transmissions for me actually had been a good family friend for a long time. Something happened where I got spun out or something, and I just got back up there and focused on what mattered and drove myself right back to the front instead of going out there and, not paying attention, staying focused on what the end goal was, is just to go win races. And, that was the thing, is it just focusing on the things that matter and letting the things go that don't. So that was anybody that knows me that's seen them situation. They like 20 minutes after the race is over, it is what it is.
I know. So you just kind of drove right back up to the front, and he coined you the Iceman thereafter, and you've been stuck since. I love it. And that actually, interestingly enough, that kind of transitions to one of the things I wanted to mention to you. So, you and I have chatted at the racetracks, and to the point you just made, I said on this podcast repeatedly, you pass more cars than anybody in the. Be willing to bet in the country. You're just always. It seems like you're always digging forward. In full disclosure, I do think you'll admit it too. Sometimes for lack of a better phrase, stepping on your own dick, and you make a
Yeah.
mistake, and you got to get right back after it. But you do it on such a consistent basis. I'm curious if there's what do you attribute that to? Where does being the Iceman come from? What is there something that happened, or is it just the way you've always been, or what is it, man?
That's a good question. I wish I had that answer. I've been put into a lot of hard situations with the work and running a business. Anybody that owns a business knows how hard it is to get up and off the ground, and I feel like owning a body shop is probably the hardest business to start. But I was always taught never give up. Don't matter what it is, you don't quit. And I don't know. I just sit and joke. I hope Todd Staley watches this because we go back and forth about this all the time. Like, I was on the fence so much about this qualifying thing, and I'm really glad we do it. But I told him, I'm like, it sucks not qualifying. I hate draw redraw because there ain't nothing worse than starting ninth place on a one-lane racetrack and you can't go anywhere, and it just buries you for the whole night. And then we got to talking some more, and he's like, well, then they brought in the qualifying with the 6-car invert. Well, all of a sudden I'm starting on the pole all the time because I'm qualifying 6th in my heat race. So I'm like, I suck. I cannot get around a heavy racetrack. And but back in the BMOD days, that's what I thrived on. I loved throttle smashing and whatever else. And I don't know. And then Todd went back to this whole 4-car inverter, rolling a dice, and one night it's 3, one night it's 5, whatever. And it seems to be like I'm always the first car out, so I always start like 9th place in the heat race, anyways. But I don't know. I don't know. I used to really thrive on that whole throttle smash deal, and now I like a smooth, slippery racetrack. Like, if I can find somewhere, that's why I like Ogilvy so much. If that place is polished up from bottom to the wall, that is my deal. I love that, and I don't know. I
Some
feel
might
like
say you're getting
90% of the
older.
time.
Some would say it's because you're getting older.
Maybe. I like to think I still have it though. I don't know. It's so hard. Like, and that's the thing is that I feel like if you have a good race car, you shouldn't have to transition it, a whole ton between a heavy racetrack and a slippery racetrack, But I just cannot qualify. I don't know what it is, but I cannot qualify anymore. And 2-3 years ago it was a whole different story. But I don't know. I suck at qualifying. There ain't no more to say about it. And then usually heat races, I pass 3 or 4 cars, and sometimes I get lucky enough. If it's slippery, I'll drive my way into the feature right there. But it seems that more often than not, I got to go through a B main, and then I start 22nd, and have to wheel my way through the field. And a couple nights that I really remember, I know Webster City haunted me bad. I get around Webster City so well. I love that place. A lot of people don't like it because of how big it is, but I remember 2 nights in a row for a USMTS race. I started like 15th or 16th, somewhere in there. I made it through the heat races, so it must have been like 15th because I'm sure it was the first car that was barely in. There's no way I made redraw.
Everything.
Yeah. So I don't know, whatever. But drove up to like 3rd or 4th, got a flat tire. 2 nights in a row. Same rim, same tire. Made it all the way through a heat race both nights. Come off the beat on like lap 6 in the feature. 2 nights in a row. Both nights I went to the back. Both nights I finished top 5. And that's at a place like Webster City. That is tough to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big old racetrack that's using up all of your motor and a little bit more, and so heck yeah. Right on.
I don't know. I remember last year we were down at Rocket, and I love Rocket. Rocket's a hell of a racetrack. Kevin Sister was doing. I don't know. I don't think he still is, but same deal there. I actually had to take a provisional to get into the feature and drove up to a top 5, and cannot get through a heat race, cannot get through qualifying, and like
Mhm.
that's the death of me. I wish we could qualify and go straight to a feature. Just be done with it.
You love it down in the southeast. That's what
That
they
would be
do,
great.
man.
It would be
You,
great.
as long as you're cool with qualifying all night, like 8 or 9 different classes to
Whatever.
let yeah. Then we're straight to the feet.
Legendary 100.
Yeah.
I thrive on that deal.
All right now.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, no. I actually remember. I think both of those were last season, right? The Rocket deal was definitely last
Yep.
season, and then I remember that.
Yep.
Yeah, because it was early in the season. That was the year you were um went out on the road. I think that was the first time you attempted to run the whole series full time, right? Yep.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
It was.
And and uh and I just remember just right away in the beginning of the season, it was just immediately you were having to drive through the field and you were doing it. That was the part that was, I mean, because especially those early season US 7TS fields,
Yep.
that's that's the
That's
killer
tough.
fields, right? Yeah, that's the when they're
Yep.
getting 50, 60 cars at Rocket and stuff like that.
Right.
Like it's no joke to drive up through those fields. So,
No. That whole
it
deal was a mess too. It started off so rough. I mean, we got down to where did we race? Hunt County. Last year, at the beginning of the year, and I made about 3 laps, and I thought the engine was coming out of the car. Like something was seriously wrong, and um, I brought an old racer, an old friend of mine, Logan, and we went through that car top to bottom in practice night and found out we had a bad battery. So we got to run one session. We drove all the way to Texas, 16 and a half hours, got to run one session and didn't get to practice the rest of the night. So everybody else already started, way ahead of us. And I just feel like it was always such an uphill battle. I don't know why.
yeah.
What's the chance you have a brand new battery? You take it all the way to Texas, and I'm sure driving down the road don't help, obviously, but you drive 16 hours and you go on a racetrack, and about the simplest thing that can go wrong goes wrong, and it's like you can't even make this stuff up, you know.
There's no reason any of this should happen. It just did. Um,
No,
but I think I don't know how the rest of Hunt County and that. I think it was just the one night that you guys were there.
uh, no, we ran 2 or 3 nights there. I
Okay.
don't remember. I think it was 2 nights. I think we practiced and ran 2 nights.
Okay.
It was okay, nothing special. Rocket was definitely more my thing. Hunt County is kind of hard to pass when there's a lot of cars on a racetrack. So,
Yeah. It looked
but we went
interesting,
to
but it
Rocket, and
didn't race well. That's what I remember. It looked
no, you got to have a lot of respect for your neighbors at that place, and
okay.
it's like that
Yeah.
place gets really tight getting up off the corner. So there's only so many guys you can trust to race like that with too. So
Fair enough. Fair enough. But yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Right on. Well, I mean, again, we'll probably touch on it again, but if I haven't, given enough respect for kind of just the way you go about your program, your race night, kind of, I think even the ways you've sort of even talked about your business, man, like I have a ton of respect for just going in and grinding, not that this is about me, but I'll take just a quick second, So I have one of them fancy degrees back there on the wall. And, I don't think I've ever said it's a law degree, and I don't say that to be fancy. I just say like it's a lot of work to get one of those, and I decided to up the difficulty, and I already had one kiddo, and my significant other at the time was pregnant with another kiddo when I started, and we moved from Minnesota to Alabama to do it. So like I get the concept of just making it really freaking hard for sport, and then still
Yeah,
getting it done. So
yeah,
like, I feel you. I feel you, and I think that's part of the reason I think been a fan since the minute I saw your races because I don't know, maybe I identify with that whole just putting your head down and getting shit done, and you sometimes look up and you're like, what have I done special? And all I've done is just keep
yep,
doing who I am. But I'm learning the older I get that that's actually the secret is the
yep.
dude who can just keep getting up every day and doing the same thing. Not everyone can do that. No?
I literally was just having this conversation with one of my close fans, somebody that's been a supporter of mine for a long time. We were literally talking about the dome deal, and I'm like, feel like you should be really excited and proud of yourself that you're the top 64 in the country or whatever it is. And I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm like, but when I sit down and look at that list, like there's a lot of cars on there that I feel like are a lot better than me. And I told her, I'm like, I really don't feel like I deserve to be there. I mean, 100%. Like, I know Tyler Carpenter's win, however many years ago, he was super emotional and whatnot. And I feel that. Like, I'm not a huge Tyler Carpenter fan by any means, but I feel that 100%. Like, there's a lot of guys out there that I feel like have won more races, bigger races, blah, 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 that should be there. And she gave me the whole, you should just keep your mouth shut, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I get it both ways, and she's like, I don't think you understand the crowd and the following that you have. And it's so easy to get so caught up in everything going on that you don't realize the following you have. Like, obviously we put the icebox together, the merch trailer. Like, the first weekend that we went, we sold $3,000 worth of merch. And like, to me, I'm like, I didn't expect that was coming. I figured $200 if I'm lucky. But it's crazy. I mean, we've been all over the country, and I'm definitely not the best modified driver in the country. But at the end of the day, I always know who I am. I know how hard I've worked, and that means a lot to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I mean, I think that's where some of the confidence and the ability to just drive forward comes from, is because you do have an appreciation for just the hard work you put in. Like, I'm gonna tangent again, just quickly, but I was talking about football with my kiddo, and an occasion to get in a game when he didn't expect he would, and it didn't go his way, and it was a bummer. And he was sharing with me, like, he plays corner, which is crazy. Like, you look at me, you're like, there's no way that kid has a corner, but that's my son is. And he's like, it's hard being out there, because to to just be at corner, you have to kind of convince yourself you're the best, right? Because you're just out
I
there
agree.
by yourself on an island. You got
Yep.
to, you could, but like, almost every data point tries to convince you otherwise. You're not the best, because like,
Yep.
everything that goes wrong at corner is in front of the whole wide world, right? Like, it's easy to see when a
Right.
corner screws up. And I just kind of was trying to tell him myself, like, but where you can believe that you're the best is all the work you've put in. And when you give yourself
Yep.
respect for the work you've put in, then that's not an accident that you're having success. It's just a
Right.
result of all the hard work you've been putting in.
Right.
So, like, when you
It's
said
so
you
easy to have tunnel vision and not see that.
right? It really is. It really is.
It's
But
so easy.
it's just a matter of, like, almost like giving yourself respect for the things you've done. Like, you don't have to be like, I'm the greatest. You can just go look at
No.
the things you've stacked up, the list you've put on, and go, damn, I am pretty good, and like, 'cause the evidence don't lie, the receipts don't
No,
lie.
it
So,
doesn't.
I personally did write in and vote for you to get into the dome. I doubt it made my singular vote made no difference, but I did also tell them, um, one, Alex passes more cars than anybody in the country, and two, he's going up and he's testing himself against the best, often by himself. That's another
Yep.
thing you haven't really touched on, but for the most part, you're going up and down the road by yourself. You're a one man band, and it just, again, it speaks to that whole thing. It really does. It's
Yeah.
commendable. Um, do you do that on purpose, or is that does
No.
that come about?
So actually, that's a good story. So my BMod days, when we ran triple duty, whatever else, we had 10 guys that were with us all the time. And back to the Shane Zabrowski thing, like, I know he's got at least one guy per car. I mean, you have to. And that's what makes that stuff feasible. But I made a post on Facebook here like a month or two ago, just touching base about how hard it is to find somebody to go to the races, and that's the thing is, it's when I was young, everybody wanted to go, but I call 15 people to ask them, can you help me for 2 hours to bleed brakes, bleed the clutch, stuff that you can't do by yourself. And you'd be lucky if one of them 15 will show up, and that's the reality part of it. But when I get to the races on a Friday night and you go out and win and there's 25 people in victory lane, like, to me, where you been all week? You know, like, I understand this is my race program. It's, whatever else, but it's I've always been taught that you know who your friends are when you're in your lows. Anybody can be standing up there shaking your hand when you're up top, but when you're in the bottom digging and grinding, whoever's there are the ones that they're the ones that matter. And so I hired a crew member to go with me last year. He made it all the way through the year last year. Utmost respect for him. He didn't get much time off. It was a learning deal for both of us. Obviously, when you're on the road and living with somebody, it's not hard not to see eye to eye. So after last year, we parted ways.
Fair enough.
And I kind of just went back to my own deal and focusing on my own stuff and whatnot. But I always try and find a couple people to go with, just because it's tough. It's very tough to a race shop and then go to the races, because everybody expects you to have parts and shock stuff and whatever else, which comes with the nature. But it makes it very tough for me to run my own racing operation by myself and do that. But no, it's definitely not on purpose. More times than not this year, it's been myself and my girlfriend and our two dogs. Which I have to thank her tremendously. Like, she does all the website stuff. She does all the merch stuff. Like, if it wasn't for her, I can tell you right now, I would not have merch, because I have way more than enough on my plate with the businesses and, the racing thing. And it's just a lot. So, I mean, she pulls a huge weight in this program, and if it wasn't for her, that stuff would not be possible. But no, most of the time when we were on the road this year, it was myself and her. And I don't know. That's what made it so tough last year. I think running on the road, the guy that was helping me didn't have a lot of experience, so we were trying to work together and learn together. And I never raced on the road before, so I didn't know what that was about. And an old high school classmate, Jake Tim, thankfully he was on the road, because we had raced out of his trailer basically. I mean, all year long. He buys parts from me, so basically I would need or use whatever I need out of his replenish it the next week, and just do it again over and over and over. So super thankful for him and Spencer last year to help me get up and down the road, because otherwise there's no way I was gonna make it. But I don't know, it's hard when you're a low budget team trying to compete with people that have quite a bit more money. I don't want to say unlimited budget, because I don't think there's anybody out there with that, but the amount of dollars it takes to run up and down a road for a traveling series, no matter what it is just unreal. And I think, you can testify. There's a lot of people that have been in my trailer, we're 8 hours away from home, or 12 hours away, or 16 hours away from home, and I have 4 spare tires for the week. And that's what I got. Like, I've had it so many times where I'm running, American Racer has their tread pattern, whatever else. I'm cutting the things the long way around, trying to get one more night out of them, and everybody's like, well, you just go buy more tires, And I'm like, it don't work that way. We have to run good so I can go buy tires. When you start 20th in the feature, it's hard to run good. Like, there's just a never ending cycle. So,
All right, we had a quick technical difficulty there, but we got it all squared away. Gotten jumping back in here. So, Alex, let's switch gears real quick. We'll do like some quick hitting questions real quick, just kind of to hear about some of your favorites, because Carter and I are always talking about our favorite this and our favorite that. But curious to see what you think of some of these things. But what's your favorite track?
ever Ogilvy, for sure. I've taken a lot of money out of that place. Obviously, the first the USMTS win up there was very big for me. Before that, there was a USMTS race and like a BMOD special on a Tuesday. And we went to that for 3 or 4 years in a row. 1 year we got pulled over by DOT, and they stopped us long enough that we couldn't make it to the races.
I don't know.
The next year we went back up there, and I think we ran like 16th to 5th in the feature. So back to passing cars again.
Yeah.
And then, we went up there the first year, I think, in a modified, and struggled a little bit. And then the second year we went up there and won $10,000 to win USMTS race. So that was huge. We've done really well at like the Topless Nationals and stuff. Not this year, but A couple years ago, we ran 5th up there. Obviously, the big deal this year, past 11 or 12 cars, or I don't even
11.
remember what it
It was
was.
11, I
11
think.
cars,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
past 11 cars to finish 3rd, which is crazy for that race, honestly, because of the caliber of cars. And there was a little bit of character in the racetrack that night. My stuff seems to go through the holes better than most, which is not very common for Ogilvy, to be honest with you, but it worked out in my favor. So I don't know. I would say Ogilvy was probably my all-time favorite. My favorite track that I went to this year was definitely Hancock County, Britt.
Okay.
First night in the new BOM car. I don't know. That place is sweet. I love places that are kind of technical that you have to really slow down for. That place is a long paper clip. But I went there and watched a few years ago, and I always thought it'd be fun to race there. So when they had USMTS on the schedule this year, I was like, I am definitely not missing that race. So I don't know. Ogilvy, it's hard to not say Mississippi Thunder. I mean, I've got a lot of success there. I run good at Red Cedar, really good at Cedar Lake. Beatrice last year, started like 19th and finished 4th. I don't know. I love going to all these new tracks. I like anything that's technical. I don't like places that you just hold your foot on the floor and you're racing the next motor. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, I will say, Ogilvy, full disclosure, I think I might have told you this before, but Ogilvy is my like home track and favorite track too.
Yep.
And there's nothing better than when they have that thing just glassed over, and
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
and it's two distinct, it's top and bottom, and yeah, maybe passes aren't happening like that, but it is
No.
technical, changing lines, trying to set up your move, just really having to racecraft your way around it, and it's pretty cool. And man, I've
Yep.
seen Shane Sabraski do some cool things on that
Yes.
race.
It's hard to beat that guy there.
Yeah,
Him and
for
Jody
sure.
Belfi.
Yep. And if the top is good, Clayton Wegeman as well. If the top is good,
Yep.
he can run that like no only he runs it that way. Is what I've come to the
Yep.
conclusion. Uh, right on. Now, I think we'd mentioned a little bit before recording. You don't get a chance to catch food as much now that you're racing as hard as you do. But what now, or maybe in the past, but like, what's your favorite track food that you've ever had at a racetrack?
Probably cheese fries. That's my go-to all the time. I
Yeah.
would say the most unique though, we went to, if I remember right, it was Tri-State last year, and they had catfish and hush puppies, which is not
Ooh,
something you hear of at a racetrack,
no.
but they were like home cooking their stuff. Like it was really good. I don't know. I like going down south. There's tater kegs and all this goofy stuff that you never heard of before, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I would say probably cheese fries. I remember we went to 81 Speedway like 4 or 5 years ago and asked the lady if they had any cheese curds, and she's like, "What the heck is a cheese curd?" And I said, "It's cheese with like breading and you deep fry." She's like, "That sounds disgusting." And I'm like, "Lady, you don't know what you're missing."
Yeah, you've got no clue. It's one of those
It
regional
was so
things.
funny.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
like when I went to 34 and they just had on the menu tenderloin, just tenderloin. And I guess where I'm at in
What does that mean?
Minnesota, yeah, right. I'm like chicken tenderloin. Like, there's a lot of tenderloins. It's just a pork.
Yep.
It's like a pork patty. That's what they called it
Really?
at my cafeteria. Yeah, I mean it was good, but like it just had a way different name. But right on.
Yep.
So your favorite event to either go to as a fan or race in or both?
Mm, all-time favorite is probably when Mississippi Thunder used to have the BMOD National. That was such a huge thing for me, and I think it was because I was kind of in my prime BMOD days back then. But it was pretty sweet to roll into Fountain City, my home track, and there's 120 BMODs there and 100 modifieds there, or 80 modifieds there. Like that's just something you don't see every day. And the caliber of BMODs that were good enough to win are probably 80 cars that were easily competitive enough to win. So that was probably my biggest thing back in the day. My favorite race to go to now would be a toss-up between IMCA Super Nationals and USA Nationals at Cedar Lake. USA Nationals is pretty wicked. Boone is a party. It's definitely not for everybody. I don't think I would like to go there for a full week, but I went there a couple years ago and watched Friday and Saturday. And I just thought it was pretty cool. You see a lot of different ranked drivers there. You know, obviously you have guys that literally have nothing, and there's guys that have way more money than talent. So I don't know. That's pretty cool. My favorite race to be a part of now. Mm, I think the 100,000 win shows, like that stuff is so cool to me. I know there's been a lot of mixed emotion on 50,000 win and 100,000 win mod shows and whatever else, but me as a driver and a shop owner that understands both sides of this whole racing thing, I feel like modifieds deserve to race for 100,000 win a couple times a year. And I've been fortunate enough, on wood, that I've made every single one of them so far. And which is, I don't know that there's very many more that have. But those shows are just so unique, so cool. So, you're part of history by the end of the weekend, and just to be a part of that stuff is pretty surreal because, when I was 10, 12 years old, just getting into the B-Mod deal and, getting my footsteps and working my way up the ladder, I never even thought there was going to be 100,000 win mod race in my lifetime, and to be part of 3 of them now is just crazy. Even 50,000 win shows is just, it's nuts, and so that's probably my favorite stuff to be a part of, just that history making stuff. That's stuff that people are going to talk about for a long time. And I love my USMTS win. That was probably my biggest highlight of my career. But, I feel like everybody, after so much time, they kind of forget about some things and move on to the next big thing. And then when we got invited to the Dome, I mean, that's huge. There's no better feeling than rolling into that place, when you're staging before you get on the racetrack and there's 30,000 fans in that place and it is packed, and all the faces that you see in there, it's something you don't see. So that's probably my biggest thing now. It's just so surreal to roll in there. And my only regret about not doing that place is I wish we get more laps. I wish we got more time on the floor to really showcase what we have. But I don't know. I mean, that race, I know a lot of people are like, yeah, it's just a big demolition derby, blah, blah, blah. Like, the Dome racing is some of the best racing you're going to see, and if you like elbows up racing, that's the place to go. So
Yeah, I'm on record saying the Dome. We can't race like that every weekend, but we all
no,
go into the
no,
Dome. No, we all go into the Dome knowing that's what we signed up for, and so
yep,
I'm here for it. And yeah, it's a totally different. I call it like almost like a gladiator vibe in a way. Like you're in
yep,
an arena and they're all. I've never been there. I mean, I've been to the event, but I've never been in the track. Right?
yep,
I've
yep,
been in the crowd, but like I can only imagine just kind of the vibes. They're like on
yep,
top of you. They gotta feel like they're
yep.
just on top of you.
And it, like, when something happens, if there's a big wreck or whatever, and you're under yellow, and the crowd starts getting hyped up, it is loud. Like, you can hear that stuff in the race car when you're just pacing around and stuff. And I don't know. It's when Tyler Carpenter does Tyler Carpenter things at the Dome, that place gets so electric. That place
Explodes,
is
yeah.
wild.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't know. It's probably one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of.
right on. So I'll ask you this. So I know for the pocketbook side of things, I know what you might answer, but I'll pit them against each other. Would you rather win a 100K race or the Dome?
It doesn't work. You can't ask me that. Why not both?
Well, that's a
Why
fair
not
answer
both?
too.
I don't know. I feel like I'd lose my shit if I wanted the Dome. Sorry for the language,
No,
but I
you don't
don't
have
know.
to worry about language.
The Dome would be so special. My big thing about the Dome, um, it puts Scott Bloomquist against Hornet drivers. I mean, when you sit down and really look at the the talent and the money involved and whatever else. Like there is $500,000 race teams coming there racing against $20,000 race teams, and you're on the same level. And that's what makes the Dome so cool to me, you know. And I think that's kind of why I like Boone a lot too. Is it puts the highs of the highs with the lows of the lows, you know, and you're on the same playing field. You're level all the time, and I think that's the coolest thing about the Dome is you don't need a big motor to show up there. You don't need the best tires to race there. You don't need the perfect shock package. You're just racing. You know, you're there doing your thing, you know, and I will argue it all day long. The reason the late models race so good there is because air does not matter. I will fight that all day long. Like I love late model racing to a certain extent, but I feel like the air has just got them cars stuck so hard that
Mhm.
I think that's why modifieds race better realistically. Um, but when you take the air factor away from the late models, they race so unbelievably good at the Dome. I mean, there's not much better to
Mhm.
watch than guys ripping decks and spoilers off of a late model at the Dome, and they're still the fastest car on the racetrack.
Yeah.
You know, that,
It's
that to me is just unreal.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's yeah, you nailed it. I'm not even gonna try to add anything. It's one like my favorite event to attend in person is probably Topless for a couple different reasons.
Yep.
That and part of it is
Yep.
because I can go every year. You know, it's tough to make it to the dome
Yep.
every year. Otherwise,
Yep.
it'd probably be that. But like the for special event, that the whole thing around it, man. I had an opportunity to be there and I'm prioritizing my kiddo's first wrestling meet is the same day as
Yep.
as the dome, and I'm prioritizing my kiddo because you know I only kids once.
You have to. Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, so
My big
but I'm
thing
go ahead.
My big thing is I don't know. So many people get the wrong taste about the Dome. I really think that, and if you are a true race fan, you need to go watch it once. I'm telling you right now, watching it on TV is nothing
It's
like in person. I
it's not
watched
the
it on
same.
TV the first few years, and I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen, you know. But once you go there and feel the electricity in that place, and you know, I went there 3 or 4 years ago for the first time, and it's grown twice as big since then, you know. So I thought it was electric then. Now it's wicked, you know. And we were, we were unfortunately not able to make the feature last year, but um, we had some issues and whatever else. But just being up there for the driver intros, like the driver intros at that race is unreal. It'd be, that's one of my big things. I want to be a part of that, and
Yeah,
it's so cool. Something new. It's something different.
right on. Would you say that's probably your primary goal is to be part of the driver intros you want to make? Is that your goal heading down there this year is to make the feature?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really care about the rest, anybody that's kind of around me in my pit or whatever else, that's my goal every night. I don't obviously I want to win races, but my goal is to make features. That's I feel like if I make the feature, I accomplish what I came there for. Anything beyond that is just a bonus, and that's how
I agree.
I kind of roll into every single race night. And I feel like that's probably why I run like I do, is because I'm conservative. I try and do what I can to make the feature without tearing stuff up because I don't have the money to fix it. I don't have the time to fix it. Whatever you want to consider it. Then when I get to the feature, I'm like, okay, now I can go race.
Yeah.
Now I made it here. Now it doesn't matter anymore. Just go race.
Yep. Right on. So is the dome, obviously dome and conservative on equipment are not that they don't go together.
No,
So
no.
are we taking, a backup car, last year's model? How do we jive with this? Are you just gonna be extra careful or what's the game plan here?
I don't know. So I had my old SSR. I parked that out front. I had it for sale, but the thing was bent every direction before I sold it, and that was going to kind of be my backup deal for the dome. And now that I sold it, the only thing I got is my new bomb car, so
Okay.
it's not brand new anymore. It's probably got 20 races on it, but I tell everybody there's no better way to showcase what we have than in front of more fans. I mean, that race right there, you're gonna have more people in the stands watching, and there's probably more people watching on television than there is any other race for the year. So no better place to showcase it. And if it gets wrecked, it gets wrecked. I guess there's another one
Okay.
on the way. So
Yeah.
It is
Fair
what it
enough.
is at this point.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. I was just curious because I like
Yeah.
so I caught when like Dallin Murdy is going in a Timmy Current car, and they said they're putting together a new Rage chassis, and like more power to whoever take whatever you got to run. But I just feel like going to
Yep.
the dome in a brand new car, man. It's just like,
Yep.
I respect you for the hustle. Let's put it
Yep.
that way, man. But
No, and I
no,
feel like that race too, being in something that you're comfortable with is huge. It's hard to know what to expect the first time you roll into the dome, but now that I've been there, like, and looking back at the couple issues I had last year, we've pinpointed them since then, so it makes perfect sense as to why things happened the way they did. But
mhm,
being in something you're comfortable with is so important when you're at a place like that with that much pressure. And you can't be a slouch and be good at the dome. Like, you need to be on your game, and when somebody messes up, you need to get in there. That's part of dome racing. So I don't know. I feel like we have a better shot this year, obviously, than we did last year. A little bit more comfortable in my stuff. We've had a lot of good success since we got into this bomb deal. So I just hope the dome goes good. We'll see.
I'm rooting for it. I'm rooting for it.
I
I mean,
appreciate it.
we haven't even said it yet, but like I think I'm on the car. The podcast is
Yep.
on the car, so
Yep.
we made that deal happen. So I'm very very proud to well Carter too. Speaking on Carter's behalf, but we're very proud to be riding with you down at the dome. And I haven't seen anything on the wrap or the merch yet, but I'm excited for when you release that. But yeah, I'm super pumped for it all, and I can't be there, but I'm gonna be rooting my tail off. That's for sure. So.
Yeah, Kara's got a special dome wrap she put together with Midwest Wrap, and we already worked with Scott at Bulletproof, so we got new shirts coming for the dome. So that's a whole big surprise deal there. So
Right.
something different, something that's not 15 dub lifestyle here. So I don't know.
Oh, she's
She
pushing the
wanted to do the whole.
limits.
Yeah, I just let her do her thing. She wanted to do the ice theme this year, which was a big hit. I mean, I had a lot of people really like that. So I didn't have anything to do with it this year. I
Don't
literally told her, I
spoil
said,
it,
"Here,
Alex. We're waiting to.
no, I'm not,
Okay.
not."
All
But
right.
I let her pick the ice themed one like the beginning of the year this year, and it was such a big hit. And I just said, "You just do your thing and whatever else." So she sent me a proof the other day, and I literally just smiled at her, and I just put my phone down and went back to work. I'm like, you just do your thing." It was good though. I mean, everything looks wonderful, so it's gonna be a surprise. It's not something I'm normally in, so I
I'm
have my core
excited.
colors, and we ain't even close.
Well, I know I got asked at least one question about my logo, so I have just the
Yep.
tiniest idea of what's going on. I think I can rule more stuff out than I can rule in at this point, but
Yep.
I'm pretty excited. Um,
It's
so
gonna be a pretty good showcase whenever we decide to reveal it. I guarantee you that.
I can't wait. So, what's the timeline look like? So, wraps we've got approved, gonna get printed, get to you. Wrap goes on what a week before you head out, or just kind of depends on delivery. How big of a lift is that for you?
Um, I don't know. We haven't. I literally have not touched my car from Ogilvy, to be honest
Okay,
with you.
all right.
We have
Still got to
so
put
the
the roof
collision side
on.
of our. Yeah. No, the collision side of our shop has been swamped with deer hits, which is really good because it's our busy season. It's when we make
Yeah.
the most money. So, um, we're working hard right now to get that kind of caught up, and it's kind of dulling down a little bit. I'm sure it's not going to slow down, but
Mhm.
yeah, the topless didn't go as planned. Had a fuel pressure issue in the heat race and stuffed us like 17th in the B main for Saturday and drove my way up to third, and
You missed it by one,
maybe it was
right?
fourth. I think fourth. Yeah, I think I
Yeah,
missed by one.
yeah,
So hard to believe. But
yeah.
yeah, I got run over like 14 times in the B main and wiped the nose off the car and wrecked the hood and the left door and all this stuff. So it's getting a whole new deck and
All
a whole
right.
new body for the dome. So we're gonna do something cool there. And I think when we're done with it, we're gonna sell the panels and try and offset some of our costs because going to the dome ain't cheap.
No,
It's
I can't
expensive to
imagine.
watch. It's real expensive to race,
I can only imagine.
but
I
there's
want,
nothing better.
yeah, I wanted to ask sort of one sort of related kind of question to that. So I imagine the travel down there is kind of it's different than most of the places you go. Like most of the places you go,
Yep.
you're not pulling into the capital city or one of the big cities,
No.
or often off in some field somewhere. It's fine. But so what given how much you go up and down the road, what is like probably your top one or two like craziest road trip stories? You've got to have a few of them.
Oh, I have a couple. So when I was racing USMTS last year, me and my buddy Steve Lavasser, we always traveled together. He might have traveled down there without me, but we always traveled home together. So there's two situations that really stick in my head. Actually three. Um, it's actually kind of bad. My pit guy last year I thought was going to get us both killed. I don't remember what happened, but we went to a pilot. I'm pretty sure it was in Joplin, Missouri, and something happened where he went into prepay and he was in there for 15 minutes and he just come out just swearing and cussing, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? He's like, that fucking lady, I couldn't believe it. He goes, he literally stood at the counter and she walked to the counter 3 times and wouldn't let him prepay for diesel fuel. At 3 o'clock in the morning, we're trying like, I'm just cleaning the floor. I'll be there in a minute. And we were at this pilot for 45 minutes to get diesel fuel, and I'm like,
Yeah.
God damn. So that was one. I thought, like, he come out and I thought he was gonna kill somebody.
Yeah.
So that was number one. Number two, leaving pilot. Um, that same night we got like 45 minutes up the road, and I'm coming up. It was a straight stretch, black highway. Like it was dark. And all of a sudden I see marker lights sideways, and I'm like, that don't make sense. As we're getting closer, we're getting closer, we're getting closer. There's a cattle truck that tried to do a U-turn in the median, and he was in the left lane on our side of the interstate and the left lane of the other side of the interstate, sitting there with his marker lights on. So he was blocking 2 lanes of traffic at 3 o'clock in the morning, dark out, black. And if he didn't have lights on, I would have killed him.
Yeah.
We probably wouldn't be
Yeah,
here
you
to
just
talk
went to
about
see
this.
that.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
that was one of them. That was scary as hell.
Yeah.
Another one, we were on the way to Ogilvie last year. So there's one more to this deal too. We were on the way to Ogilvie last year, and a semi did a U-turn again. I don't know what in the hell these semi drivers do. I used to drive truck for a living, and I've never had this issue. So semi driver did a U-turn, and he caught the guardrail with the trailer tires and pulled the guardrail all the way across the highway. And we come up over the hill. I don't remember. I think we were just getting into the cities, and like we come over the hill, and it was hard to see. I could see the semi trailer had its flashers on or whatever, and Kara's like, I don't know what's going on, but you better stop. So I literally, like, as soon as I realized what was going on, there's a guardrail across the road. I literally was standing out of the seat on the brake pedal as hard as I could, and we came within inches of driving straight through this guardrail in the middle of the interstate. And
Oh my.
I don't know. I don't know. And then the last one that I remember that was real bad, it was Steve and I were traveling, and when we travel all night long, we call each other and stuff to talk. And I remember we were on the phone with each other, and I just went silent, and then he went silent, and I'm like, I literally said to him, like, you just see that? He's like, what? And then he said, holy shit. And I said, you just see what I seen? And he goes, what was that guy doing? We're 50 miles from a town, right?
Yep.
Down, I'm sure it was I-35 somewhere south of Kansas City. I don't remember where we were. It was between Kansas City and Joplin, Missouri somewhere. And we're driving down the interstate at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., pitch black, and there's a guy literally standing on the white line walking down the interstate. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on? Like, if somebody wasn't paying attention, he was going to get killed. And he might have, I don't know. Hopefully not. But
hopefully not. But
these
dang.
stories that we have seen,
Yeah.
it's just been wicked. I mean, and that's the one downfall of like what I do. Like if when we were racing on the road, we went to Texas and stuff. I would leave here Thursday at noon, and it's
Mhm.
12 to 16 hour drive no matter where I'm going down there. So I would drive all night long, and we get there at 6, 7, 8 in the morning. And I'd like to lay down, but usually my phone starts ringing between 8 and 9 in the morning for work every day. So I don't usually sleep the first night we go somewhere,
Jeez.
which is really hard on me.
Yeah.
But and then we get done on the races on Saturday night, and we drive all night long and get home, 9 p.m. on a Sunday. So
Yeah.
there's just not much sleep there. So when you're running on no sleep and then you have shenanigans like that happen, it's just I don't know. It's a
Yeah.
lot.
It is a
We went
lot.
to
Yeah.
yeah, not
Yeah.
good, not good.
Yeah, no, I hear it. I've definitely had some of those close calls too. You know, again from the fan side, right? I probably don't have quite as long of a night, but I've still done like Husitz to home from Blaine in a day. That's
I can
dumb. I should
imagine.
never do that.
Yeah,
But by the time you're 2 hours from home, you're just like hoping that nothing crazy
right.
happens because you're just talking yourself awake at that point. So
Yep.
I definitely get it. But I did want to kind of switch gears a little bit. I think the last thing, so I'm a stan for modifieds. I'm with you. I think mods put down probably the best racing there is right now. I also just last week or a couple weeks ago was mentioning to Carter too. I like when you go into a pits and they look gnarly, right? They look
Yep.
gnarly as compared to everything else. They look different. They look not like a standard car, not that any of these really look like a standard car, you know what I mean? But they
No.
just look totally different. And so I want this class to be the coolest and baddest thing it can possibly be. But where you sit, you're all in on this. You're doing the chassis
Yep.
stuff and you're racing and you ran series and all of that. So just like kind of uniquely from where you sit, what's your take on the modified class right now? Whether that be goods, negatives, things you'd like to see changed or added, or just kind of what's your lay of the land? How do you think it's going?
Um, I think overall it's doing okay. Like Deer Creek gets 24 of them every week, and it seems like they have every year for the last 15 years. Fountain City struggles some nights, but then some nights there's B mains of them. So I think it's so hit or miss. My big thing is I feel like most modified drivers are drivers that have normal jobs. So the traveling across the country to race for 5,000 doesn't work anymore. That's my personal opinion, but I know there's a lot of people in the same boat. I know for me, that's why I quit traveling up and down the road every single week because I was spending as much as I was or more than I was getting back every single
Tried to
week. And I'm
win.
like,
Yeah.
it's fine and dandy if you're doing this for fun, but with me in the performance side of things and whatever, like this is my income, and that's the difference between me and most of the people I race against is this is what I use to pay my bills every week, and you can only take so many losses before you can't do it anymore. And that's, we've unfortunately had to step back from what we were doing to save what we have and what we've built to try and come back bigger and better, in the future. But I think as a transition thing, I honestly think that weekly modified racing won't be around in 4 or 5 years. I truthfully don't. But I don't necessarily think like they're all going to die. Everything's going to like. I just think that tracks are going to have to start working together and maybe like have bigger paying races and race less. That's what I think is going to happen because, even if you budget race and modified, it costs $500 to drop the back door. I mean, there's no way around it. It just, that's what it costs, and unless you have somebody else paying for your stuff, it's hard to do that every week. It really is. And a person with a normal paying job, it's just that much tougher. I mean, 100% it is. But I don't. I don't know. I guess maybe I shouldn't say it's going to be gone in 4 or 5 years. I just feel like it's going to be more limited.
It'll look
But I
different,
just,
at least.
yeah. I
Yeah.
don't, like Fountain City's got a real good thing going. They were paying 1250 or 1500 to win last year. And like to me, that's huge. You're paying that kind of money, even if you don't win, you're getting enough to sustain your time and your money to get there, and there's some other tracks that are around that you finish fifth place and you get $300, and it's like, this don't work. I just
Hmm.
traveled 2 hours to come race, and I literally drove past 14 cars in the feature and got paid $300 and barely covered my pit passes. Like it just that doesn't work anymore. And I think like the Northern Lights deal, these traveling series that pay 2,000 to win, 3,000 to win all the time, but you only have to drive a couple hours from home. I think that stuff's going to take off. Obviously, the Northern Lights deal is already kind of taken off. The Heartland series is huge.
Hmm.
But I think that's the big thing is drivers aren't traveling 16 hours to race for 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, $5,000. Like it's fine if you go win, but at the end of the day, there's only got one guy that wins, and
Right.
I see it from all aspects, and that's the hard thing about me is I do get a little opinionated because I do see it from both sides. Me as a racer and a business standpoint, it don't make sense. I have zero interest in driving 16 hours to Texas if it doesn't pay 10,000 win or more,
Right.
because by the time I'm done and my time's involved and my fuel and tires and whatever else are involved, it gets to be so tough. So I don't know. I truthfully just think that modified racers are going to start getting more um, smarter with their money, I should say, and racing the shows that make more sense. I can't imagine guys are going to keep racing for $700-800 to win all the time when there's another track paying $1,500 to win another hour away. I think that's what's going to happen, and I think it's going to turn into a little bit of a money battle, I would say. But I hear it all the time. I sell American Racer tires, and usually every year there is a price increase, and obviously that's nothing I can control.
Right.
If American Racer, if I have to buy my tires for $3 more, that's what the customer gets charged at $3 more. Like that's how it works.
Yep.
And every single year I have customers come in here. Usually the first batch of tires, it's, well, Jesus Christ, these freaking tires are getting more expensive and more expensive, and they'll come in and they'll whine about it and they'll whine about it and whine about it, and they'll buy 3 or 4 tires.
Hmm.
And I got to the point, like, I understand the racing aspect. I know how much people bitch. Like, I get it. But I finally put my foot down last year. I'm like, you know what the problem is you come in here and you buy 4 tires and you bitch about the price. I buy $40,000 worth of tires, and I have to figure out how to come up with that money. Like,
Yeah.
quit whining. If
Yeah.
you don't want to do it, don't do it.
Yeah. I
And
mean, do you think it's going to get to a point where all of those little things are going to be that? And I mean, maybe that's you're hinting at, but like all those little $3 here on everything is going to eventually drive guys out of. I feel like modified. So this is my opinion, and feel free to correct any part of this you don't agree with. But I feel like
mhm,
modified sits in a unique situation where it's like the first not premier class, but it could really be a premier class just about anywhere you go, right? But it's not sprint cars, it's not
yeah,
late models, it's
yeah,
not
right,
those, and so it 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 sits kind of in between, but it's not also stock cars. Like they're faster, they're better. They're just I love stock cars too. This is not a
right,
shot. I'm just saying
right.
it sits in that unique spot. But like if there's nowhere for these guys to kind of like go to from a modified on, or let me rephrase it. If there's nowhere to kind of grow in a modified program and
Yep.
all we're getting is cost building and there's no place for them to grow their program, do you think at some point these guys are just gonna they're just gonna hang it up because the races are too few and far between and the costs are too high that we're gonna eventually squeeze out what used to make modified racing cool was you could get 40 guys at a Deer Creek on a Saturday, and now it's just
Right.
not happening. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think to a certain extent, but I think modified drivers most of the time are pretty intelligent. They're not
mm,
stupid, and I think that's why they're doing what they're doing. But I think at the end of the day, the overall is, I just feel like the modified guys are going to go start racing where it financially makes sense to race. And I think, that's the thing is when there's 100,000 to win show 30 minutes from the shop. Like obviously we do our own stuff as far as the performance side to get ready for that, them shows and stuff. But if you're anywhere within 3 hours of that racetrack and don't go race that show, and go to the next racetrack the week after and race for $600 and then bitch about the pay, you're part of the problem.
Yeah.
I understand that, there's only 24 cars or 30 cars that are going to make the feature, whatever it is, but you can't win if you don't go. You can't,
Right.
you're never going to make shows if you don't show up. And
Mhm.
I just think that so much of what's going to happen is I think people are just going to race smarter financially and just do what makes more sense, and I hear all of it. I hear both sides of it, obviously, from the performance side, because believe it or not, every single Monday, I know everybody's drama from Fountain City. It just happens that way every single week. I hear it from everybody, and one guy shit talking the next, and here comes the guy who's just shit talking right in the
Yeah.
door, and it's like, oh. But I mean, you can't help but laugh. That's just
Yep.
nature of what we do,
Of course.
and the racing deal. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I feel like there's a lot of things that could impact the cost of modified racing. I know a lot of people don't like Darlow. I personally like Darlow because he puts me on the same playing field as guys that have a lot more money. He's
Mhm.
doing what he can to try and keep racing on a decent budget. Um, I think weekly teching is one of the biggest problems in the modified racing. There's a lot of cars that I race against every week at Fountain City and Deer Creek that I'll go 9 hours away from home, and I don't change a single thing on my car. And I can't compete with them here, but we go race 10 hours away, and all of a sudden I'm either running the same speed or better than them. Well,
Mhm.
the only difference is there's a tech guy at these races. So I don't know. I mean, I think that's huge. You go to nationals, and some of the guys that are really, really good around here go down there, and the cars get picked apart, and they're not very good down there. And I just feel like that's an ongoing thing because um, I know, like I said, obviously I see it from both sides, but I have so many customers that come in here and they spend a lot of money to run by the rules to keep up with guys that they don't feel like are following the rules, and
Mhm.
it costs half as much to cheat up a motor than it does to run a legal modified motor nowadays. You can build this big stuff and whatever else, and it say like a Wasota motor, a 360 concept is their rule. They have to be a 360 motor. Well, if that's the case, then there's probably guys out there buying 415s if they're not weekly teching. So then there's, instead of spending $20,000 on a motor, we're spending 30. But then the guy that's got the small motor is trying to spend more and more and more trying to keep up with the big motor because of the teching situation, and
Yep.
that's to me, that is the biggest problem with modified racing. They police the things that probably don't matter as much, and then some of the bigger things get overlooked. And I feel like it doesn't matter what series it is, it don't matter what track it is, there's always favorites. And, that's part of the reason we decided to go race elsewhere other than right here all the time is because it gets old. It gets really old. And as real as I can get about it, it sucks. You watch a guy with an inch high deck height just gets a slap on the wrist and yours is a quarter inch high and they're telling you to go fix it before you get back on the racetrack, and it's all part of it.
Yeah.
It's tough, but it's really tough when you're a business owner that has to hear both sides of it because you hear the gossip that you don't want to hear either,
Yeah, some of
so
the things you just don't want to know, right? I
like,
hear
yeah.
that. Yeah, I
But
hear that for sure.
I, I truthfully think if there was something to be fixed there, I think that would help tremendously, and
Yeah.
so selling these cars, selling these bomb modifieds and B mods. I can tell you right now, if anybody's in the market for a race car, doesn't have to be a bomb by me or whatever. It don't cost that much more to build a modified, and the fact that there's 50 B mods everywhere you go in the country, and some of them guys that are running first, second, third, fourth, and fifth in the B mod are spending just as much as these modified guys, and like to me that doesn't make sense. Yeah, I
Right.
understand you want to win, and I know you want to be good, but if you're spending 60,000 to go race a B mod, you might as well just race a modified. Why not? I ran a B mod. We built a brand new one. Did it as like a house car deal. I wanted to get some laps in it, whatever else, to get like a baseline setup. And I drove it 5 nights. The worst I finished was sixth. The one night I won, I got paid $500 or $750. Every other night I get less than $250. And I'm like, to me, this is stupid as hell because the stuff on this B mod
You're
is
trying
nicer
to
than the stuff
sell.
that's on my modified.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Like the stuff on this B mod is nicer than the stuff on my modified, and I'm getting paid a quarter of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just, uh, to me, I think that's what's going to change in the racing world. I think in the next couple of years here, I think people are just going to be smarter financially.
Yeah.
These bigger paying B mod races, these bigger paying modified races, these bigger paying stock car races, whatever it is, the only way they're going to stick around is if you support them. And I'm not, I don't think there needs to be 100,000 win races. I would be fine with a 50,000 win race and spread the extra 50 throughout the
Through
field,
the
and
field.
everybody's getting a bigger piece of the pie except the one guy. And most of the winners of the 100,000 probably would agree that they probably don't need 100,000 to win them races,
Yeah.
But I think that's what's going to happen in the next 3 or 4 years. Is I think people are just going to have to race smarter financially. That's all it is.
Yeah, I agree. And I think part of that and I'm going to save this question for a minute, but I'll preface it by just saying, I do think, you know, I think that's why we see so many people going late model racing more than they do mod racing, is because the economics make sense over there. And that makes me sad for mods because like I said, I love them as a class. But I'll touch on that here in a second. We'll save that one. Um, you had mentioned kind of the 100K races, and so I'm not a technical guy by any. I shouldn't be around a race car working on it with a wrench. Like that'd be just bad news for everybody. But these 100K races have really been relying on the run your sanction stuff. And so because I have someone who I've seen you run with Soda and I've seen you run USMTS, like it just I guess across the big three, and that's not to put down IMCA, but they're running 604 crate motors,
Yeah,
so
right.
they're not going to hang. But between Wisoda, UMP, and USRA, is like is there really that big of a difference performance wise when you get them all together? Like, can these guys run together more or less?
Yeah. So, to kind of put it on an easy way for people to look at it, my car right now is 100% legal. It's a USRA USMTS car, but it's a 360 engine, so it is 100% legal to go run with soda. All I got to do is switch tires. Nothing that's performance enhancing, obviously.
Yep.
And as far as the UMP stuff goes, from what I understand, I mean, obviously I run a dome and that's UMP stuff there. So, I don't think there's that much difference. I think at the end of the day, your cream's always going to rise to the top. So, your good USRA drivers, your good Wisoda drivers, your good UMP drivers, they're always going to be at the top no matter what. You're not going to take a 24th place USRA car and compete with a first place UMP car. But I think the 100,000 win races, these 50,000 win races, all these races where you run your own sanction. I think that's a great thing for modified racing. I think it's a great thing for B mod racing. I think it's a great thing for stock cars, for USRA and IMCA cars to run together. Any good racer that they know that it doesn't matter who you're racing against. Every time you're racing against somebody new, you're going to learn something new.
Mhm.
And every time I go on a racetrack, I learn something. It don't matter what it is, good or bad. You're always learning something. And to me, like I watch the UMP cars, and I feel like they have a little bit softer tire. Obviously, they can run a much bigger engine than what I have. But I feel like a lot of times, like when we race them at Fountain City or Ogilvy, um, Alina was kind of a different deal this spring, but especially Fountain City and Ogilvy, I don't feel like they turn as good. I feel like the USRA and Wisoda cars definitely turn better, and I think it's because we're used to racing on more circular tracks, if you will, not so much
Mhm.
paper clips, stop and go.
Yep.
And I think that's such a big thing. Certain cars are so much better at certain places. Like when we went to Salina this year, that racetrack is huge. It's banked like Daytona, and it took rubber in qualifying. Neat facility, whatever else. But to me, I figured the UMP cars were going to spank everybody else, and really they did dominate most of the race. Jim was obviously very good with his tires and whatever else, but
Mhm.
um, they definitely, I felt like, had a good advantage at that race. But other than that, I truthfully don't think there's anyone that's better than the rest. You take the best USRA car, you take the best WISSOTA car, you take the best UMP car, and I think each one's going to shine at certain times. But I think overall as a whole, it's the same. I don't feel like one is way ahead of the other. I did look at the UMP rulebook last year when I was building a dome car, and I'm like, this thing is straight out of 1995. Like, I don't know. There's some of the rules that they got going on is pretty crazy, which obviously they don't enforce a lot of them. But I don't know. I think it's a good thing. I love every bit of it. It's cool to see familiar faces, and I used to run the WISSOTA stuff for a while, and next year we're planning on running more of it. We kind of really wish that WISSOTA would get a couple 3,000 or 5,000 win shows, because from a business standpoint, I've kind of sat back and watched the WISSOTA stuff, and anytime they have, a 3,000 win mod show or a 4,000 or 5,000, whatever you want to consider it, the places are packed. And you go to Ogilvy for the Fall Classic, and I understand there's not much else racing that week, but there's 60, 70, 80 modifieds, and that's tough to do. There's races that pay 100,000 that don't get that kind of car count. So I think that's the biggest thing is when you sit down and look at it, like, I think it's a budget deal, but I think it's cheaper to run a WISSOTA car than it is USRA car, because there's a lot of guys that spend a lot of money on 415s and big engines and stuff, and I don't think you need to. Sure, there's probably places for it, and that's probably why I suck at qualifying. But
that could be the issue, Alex.
That could be. But when you, like, I run Cedar Lake probably 4 or 5 times a year, and they run an open sanction deal, and usually I'm one of the few USRA cars there racing against a lot of WISSOTA cars, and I don't think that I've ever been like, oh my God, I get out here and I'm racing, and my engine's got 20 more horse than theirs, and I'm just driving right. But like, the good cars are still the good cars, and I think at the end of the day, whether it's 30 or 40 horse, heavy or short, I don't think at the end of the day it's going to change much. So I think it's a good thing. I love when we do these shows, and especially, like I said, back to the BMOD days, when they did the 10,000 win shows at Fountain City and whatnot. It was pretty crazy when you had USRA BMODs running against WISSOTA BMODs running against IMCA Sport mods and whatever else. I know there was always, this guy's got a bigger spoiler and this guy's got this and whatever, but I know a lot of the WISSOTA guys were always complaining, they're at such a disadvantage in the Midwest mod deal, and then you get Brandon Jensen or Joey Jensen to come to Fountain City, or Shadow Kitchener, or like these good WISSOTA Midwest mod drivers, and they come to Fountain City on a smaller motor and come out there and wax everybody else. And it's like, the difference is they have their stuff together. And when you race competitively and you're racing against good cars every week, you have to. And if you don't, you're just not going to be good. And that's the one fortunate thing about our area racing where we do. I mean, on a normal night, I feel like USMTS is pretty much at Fountain City and Deer Creek.
I mean, it is.
Jacob Leese, Jake Tam, Jim Chisholm, Joe Chisholm, Brandon Davis, Dustin Sorensen,
Alex
Lucas
Williamson.
Schott. Yeah, I'm there too. I'm a field filler.
Hey, knock it out.
But I mean, honestly though, you sit down and you look at that, and that's what makes it so inviting for me to go anywhere in the country and know that I have a good chance of running competitively, is because we don't race against slouches every week. We don't, you roll in the pits on Fountain City on a Friday night, and there's a couple of times this year where I shouldn't have went to the races. Our stuff wasn't ready, and I was just not prepared, and work was too busy, whatever it is, and you get there to try and please your fans, and that's, at the end of the day, that's always my goal, is to try and make everybody else happy. But you go there and you struggle in a heat race and you start 25th in the feature, and it's like, this sucks. I really, I'm in front of my home crowd. I finished 3rd last week at Ogilvy for 125,000. I was top 3 in the country, past 11 cars. And you go to Fountain City next week and you run 9th in the heat race. And it's like, what in the hell, and
humbling.
I don't know. I think that's just so much of the humbling part of the sport that I'm in, and the area that I grew up in. Like I said, I went to school with high school with Jake Tim. I grew up racing slingshots with Jake Tim and Lucas Schott and um,
Sorensen too.
obviously, yeah,
Yeah,
Sorensen.
yeah.
Chisholms were in it after I was
Chisholm.
out.
Yeah.
But so many of us grew up in this little area and really just blossomed. And,
Yeah.
obviously it comes with a talent that was a generation ahead of us, obviously with my dad, Sorensen, Tim, them are all big shoes to fill no matter what. But it's pretty crazy. You get to the racetrack and you just kind of step back and look. And I think that was the biggest thing is when I was on the road all last year, I didn't hardly race at Fountain City at all last year, and Fountain City is home to me. My girlfriend and I, we went, I don't remember what show we went to Fountain City this year, but we didn't race. I don't think, maybe it was a sprint car show. I don't remember. Um, but we rolled in and, I don't know what made me think of it, but I just told her, I'm like, the day that this place is gone is going to be a bad day. I said, this is where I grew up. And, it's pretty crazy when you sit down and think of the history that's come out of that
Yeah.
racetrack.
Yeah. It is pretty wild. And I did want to kind of touch on something too. So I agree with you. Like the talent southern Minnesota slash over into Wisconsin is crazy. Like I mean Jake's
Yeah.
out running late models now and Dustin was went and ran them, 2 years ago and yeah, those guys have done it, but they're on tour now. Like that's
Right.
crazy to think. They're doing it with
Yep.
the best of the best. And then like so where I sit, like that's 2 hours from me. And then an hour from
Yep.
me is Ogilvy and Cedar Lake. And then we talked a little bit about too, but guys like Jody Belfi and Shane and that's why I was asking like what is it like because this is we like you don't have to go but 2 hours and all of the almost all of the good modified guys are here. Like I mean,
Yep.
it's deep. So I just always found it so ridiculous that y'all didn't find a place to party more often together, you know? Like it doesn't make sense how we like how we're not seeing more of that or how we have or don't anymore. And my fandom, I'm like diehard for like 5 years. So like there's a lot of
Yep.
history I don't know. But I just look at it and go, it doesn't make sense to me how you and Shane haven't shared a racetrack more frequently, you know?
Yep.
It's just there's so many guys, and if y'all can run pretty competitively, and you can, I've seen it on Ogilvy, I've seen
Yep.
it on, every, I it blows my mind. That's what I'm hoping. Northern Lights. I was chatting with someone over there, and I was like, if you can get some Minnesota tracks in the fold, man,
I know
like
they're trying. I keep
yeah,
pushing too, and I told them like if you can get into Wissota country a little bit and pay 2 or 3 thousand, win a couple of these shows, I said you'll have cars. I promise you'll have cars if you let them. If you work with them a little bit, you're gonna have cars. And there's some real gem Wissota racetracks, and I don't care what anybody says. Ogilvy is obviously one of the top ones, but I-94 is somewhere I've always wanted to go. Superior, it just
oh
looks
Gandhi,
so fun to
yeah,
race. Yep.
yeah, Gandhi's pretty
Princeton's a little
cool.
bull ring. I mean,
Yeah,
that would be sweet to go race
that's like
there.
the
But
only one around here. I mean, I can't
yep,
I can't think of any like quarter miles other than Princeton that are really in our area
Rice
at all.
Lake.
Rice Lake, yep, that's true. All right, you
Yeah,
caught me on that one. I've not personally
yeah,
been there, so it always
oh yeah.
slips in my mind. But yeah, no,
No, I've
I mean the
I've
guy
had a
I'm
lot of
wearing.
guys. Yeah,
I was gonna say the guy I'm
we-
wearing. I talked to him. He Caden Blazer. He ran
yeah,
that to start, and I thought for sure he was trying to USRA. He's like, no, it's Wissota, and I can hang. It just didn't work for us, the rest of the
yeah.
second half of the season. But
I know a lot of guys. Like I'll go race a few Wissota shows. Like I said, I used to go to Jim Falls once in a while, and been to Rice Lake a couple times, Cedar Lake a ton. And I've had a lot of people, it's easy for everybody to give you shit. Well, you're just, you're walking away from the good USRA cars and you're just going to cherry picking with soda. And I'm like, it don't work like that.
it don't work like that.
When you're racing against Shane Sabraski and Jody Belfi and I have ran hard side by side for, I bet you 300-400 laps at Ogilvy before, it just,
Yeah,
I don't know. It always seems to work out that way. But, in my earlier mod years, I used to race with Buzzy Adams all the time.
yeah, yeah.
A lot of people don't like racing with people like that, but the amount of respect you learn and gain from them people is just nuts, and you go race at Menominee on a Friday or Jim Falls when they were open running Friday or Sunday, whatever. But Rice Lake and um, Superior, Ogilvy, all these places have a couple real good drivers all the time, and
Mhm.
I don't think there's any track in Wissota country that just literally has slouches. So I feel like that's such a cool thing for me, and that's the one thing that I benefit from is being on so close to the edge of Wissota Country versus USRA, and really not that far from IMCA or UMP really either. So
Mhm.
I'm kind of centrally located and all that stuff, but it's so cool to go to different places like that and race against new faces, and you're going to be better than them in some areas and obviously worse in others, but
Mhm.
you put a new tire on your car and you got to relearn everything, and um,
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy, but that's what makes it fun. You go see all these new faces and you just learn about the new things, and I don't know. That's what I live for. It's so much fun.
Heck yeah. No, I dig it. I dig it. And I guess if anything can come out of this, because I know that you're going to get more views than Carter and I normally do being on here. If anyone's, you know, paying attention, where I think Alex and I'm speaking for Alex on this one, but we'd like to see some more USRA with soda shows kind of get cooking because there's some studs all over the place on both those sanctions, and we're not but an hour or two away from each other.
No,
Let's go party.
no,
Come on,
no.
man.
And that's the nice thing. Like Fountain City lets them run on a weekly basis. They're allowed
Okay.
to run their tire or whatever else, or I
Nice.
don't know.
I
There's
like
some kind
that.
of a rule blend rule there, but it's super cool when you do see, if Menominee cancels or whatever, you see the better Wissota cars show up and
Yep.
race, and like a lot of people get kind of annoyed and pissy about that, but I just think it's really neat, that you see new faces come in, and you know,
Yeah.
just because the guy's really good at one racetrack, they struggle a little bit at another, and I just feel like that's such a thing, and that's what makes you a better driver. Is you just get
Hmm.
out and you go see new racetracks and different styles, and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I mean, especially for the modified class, right? Like we need if if Monopoly's gonna rain out and a couple guys want to run down here and race, like that's good for the sport and that night's racing, right? And the fans and everyone. Like we gotta, I don't know, maybe make the I get the idea of sanctions. I get where we have them. They serve their purpose. I'm not like get
Yeah,
rid of them. I'm just like if we're this close and we're this
I wish
close
they worked together more.
geographically, yep, and we're this close rules wise, like we're s- we're we're screwing the pooch for no good reason because this is
Yeah,
the hotbed in my opinion, and then and not to call it Illinois or anything like that, but I think this is a hotbed
no,
of
right?
there's so much just right here. We should just we could throw some really cool parties together, man.
Yeah,
This is what I'm saying. But all right, we've been going for a while, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I do want to give you a little bit of crap. We touched on a little bit. So some of that economic stuff is guys are going to run late models more. Is that something we could see out of you anytime soon?
it all depends. I don't know. It probably would have been a better chance before I started this BOM deal, but I don't know. I would like to for sure. I don't think you're gonna see me run World of Outlaws or anything like that.
Uh, well, unless
I
someone comes
I ran.
calling, right? Like, but
Yeah, well, somebody's gotta run a business
I
yet.
agree. I
So I don't know.
agree.
To be honest with you, when I ran the USRA late model, I didn't mind it. But to be honest with you, the easiest way I can put it is when you own your own stuff without the financial help of your father or your mother, or you're always going to have sponsors, and you're always,
Yep.
your father and mother or whoever, they're going to support you, obviously, right? But when you step back and you go finish third at Ogilvy for 125,000 to win show and know you did that out of your own pocket, that feels so much better than saying, "Well, this guy just spent $500,000 to go let me race for 10 grand." You
Yeah.
know,
I hear
so
that.
I when I drove the late model, I liked it. I enjoyed it. We had some wins. I had some really highs in my career. But one of the things that I did not enjoy was the fact that it wasn't mine, and I knew at any given point it could have been taken away. Um, and we had some issues with the car owner at the time where he was kind of changing things that I didn't like, and so we kind of butt heads, and that's what led us to walking away from the situation. But I'm obviously forever grateful for stuff like that has come up, and I've been able to drive a 5.3 Motorsports car a few times in the Midwest mods and the B mods and whatever else, and I enjoy doing that because it's somebody I help and whatever else. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I would really. I don't know that it would trip my trigger. Like at the end of the
All
day,
right.
I care about my family a lot, and I like being home. I like fishing. I like hunting. And I don't know that racing 100 races a year is really what I would want to do because it's kind of the opposite of everything I've worked for. I think it would be badass to go race a late model.
Mm-hmm.
I think if the right opportunity come about and I was able to go run like a challenge series for Wissota or like the old days Corn Belt Clash series in Iowa or
Yeah.
whatever, Dirt Kings or I think that would be probably a possibility.
Okay.
We're trying to get up on our feet right now. So our business has grown
I hear
tremendously
that.
since we moved down to the shop.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I said, my big thing with the late model deals, I hate how air dependent they are. Like if we were racing at Rice Lake or Fairbury or someplace like that every week, sure. But I don't know. Like I go watch Eldora, and I think Eldora is pretty cool. I've always wanted to go there, Knoxville, whatever else. But there ain't nothing more frustrating to me than when you're watching two cars race and one guy crosses the other one's nose and all of a sudden the air's gone and the guy drives up into the
Yeah.
fence or just about, like to me that's not right. And even in a modified, they're getting to be so air dependent that it's kind of the similar deal. I mean, there are definitely times at big racetracks that you can tell when you lose air and you lose the nose or you wash whatever, but um I don't know. I that's something that's kind of hard for me to think about. And the way I obviously see it, like I said, is I don't know that I would enjoy doing it as much if I wasn't the one funding it
Okay.
because at the end of the day, then I know I made it,
Yeah.
and I think that's such a big thing with my modified thing. Obviously, my parents helped me a ton to get myself to this standpoint, but the last couple years here, I kind of took everything over myself and worked really hard to buy. I mean, this BOM modified is the first one I bought by myself, and we've obviously had good success with it. The engine this year, basically a brand new engine from Kevin Stoa. It's the first one I bought. Um, we've paid for freshens and stuff before, but you just get to that point of I did it myself and I can walk back and say I did it. And guess what? If I want to go fishing on a Saturday afternoon, instead of going to race for 500 bucks, I can go fishing because
You're
that's
gonna
my
go right.
choice,
Yep. Absolutely.
And I think that's such a big thing to me is you don't, my mom came in here just a couple days ago and my mom means a lot to me. And she came in and she sat down. I said, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Do you know how far you've came?" I said, "Yep." I said, "I don't need to be reminded." I said, "I sit down and, I'm very thankful for it every day, but we work hard. I mean, we work very hard to make this go and we don't have a crew guy. So whatever I don't get done doesn't get done. So
Yeah.
I
No.
don't know. It's such a good feeling when you do that stuff by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. That's a sense of pride and a sense of accomplishment and hell
Yeah.
yeah, and I can absolutely respect that. And
But the late model thing is not out of the question.
all right. I gathered that in there. I think you hedged a few times, but all in all, I was left. And I think you hit on something that I've been noticing too, is that again, this is just a regional thing, Josh's opinion. Well, when I first started like really getting into the racing around me about 5 years ago, late models weren't what they are now in
Nope.
Minnesota.
Nope.
They have gone like that in about
Yep.
5 years. And the car counts are up. I mean, I was looking at I think it's Cedar Lake alone, including the USA Nationals, I believe has 4 10,000 to win races or more for late
Right.
models. And so,
And that's the way it should be.
yeah. And they're
That's
going to
the
get the
100% the way
cars.
it should
Yeah, they're going to get the car counts to justify it. They already did last year. And so like when you had mentioned, these guys are smart and they're going to do what makes economic sense. Like if I'm being territorial about modifieds, I'm going, open your eyes.
I,
They're
I
stealing the
agree.
drivers out from under our nose, and this is how like so
And to build off that, to be honest with you, I think that's probably why the late model stuff has grown so much. You sit back and you look at the big name Wasota late model drivers right now. 5 years ago, they were mod drivers, but
TPO and yeah,
whatever pushed them to that next level, whether it be money or not, I feel like at the end of the day, it is also an economical standpoint where what sense does this make to be racing for $800-900 every week when we can race for 3,000,
yeah,
and spend not that much more? Obviously a late model does cost more money, modified costs more than a B mod, but at some point you got to get to the point where it's like, okay, well, I'm spending way too much to be racing for this. So, I think the days of obviously the 90s and early 2000s racing, everybody's like, well, them are the days. Well, obviously, but them days are never coming back.
yeah. Gotta
As sad as
recreate
that
them.
is,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I feel like the late model population has grown so much because of that. I think I don't remember who the sponsor was. Somebody stepped up when we were at Legendary this year, and there's a 10,000 win late model race at the Legendary 100. I don't remember if it was Bruggerman or who it was, but anyways, somebody stepped up and put in a big pot for the Legendary for next year and stuff, and it's just pretty cool to see that stuff is growing immensely. And to be honest with you, if it keeps going that way, then maybe that's the right financial decision. I mean, I don't know, but I don't know. The only other thing that I really don't like about the late model world, to be honest with you, is I feel like there's so much dial the phone and get information, and I feel like so many late model guys feel like it's easier to just call somebody than to work on their stuff. And I think that's probably the one thing that sets me apart from most is I don't like to call others for information. I like to really work hard and try and learn stuff myself. But
No way, you're
you know,
stubborn.
yeah.
I'm
But
kidding.
like the late model thing, it's so easy for somebody to say, "Well, these are the smash numbers I got from this guy, and he said put these in at this racetrack," and it's like, what? It's like, why don't we just, if the car needs a turn here, why don't we just put it there? Like,
Yeah,
let's
right.
just do things simply. But
Right. What
I
you're
don't know. I think that's the one
feeling
thing.
is then adjust
Yeah,
off to your feeling. Yeah, yeah.
I think that's the one thing that kind of deters me from the late model world is like my modified stuff. I don't scale my modified. I'll be the first to admit it. My car went on the scales like, I don't know, a month ago, and it was really good just to document where I was at. So that way, if anything would ever happen, I got something to go back to. But I know there's guys that put their stuff on the scales every week or every other week. And I'm like, where are my scales if I did that stuff, I don't know. Before that, I bet it's been 3 or 4 years since I've had a modified on scales. I get in the car and I drive it and I'm like, okay, well, it needs this. So I just give it that, and I've been a very, very big influencer of Bob Harris stuff. I got hooked up with Bobby Harris, and that's who I get all my AFCO parts through and whatever else. And I've been to a couple of their setup schools. I've been to a Mark Bush setup school, and you go to all this stuff, and it's kind of just like racing. I mean, every time you go somewhere, you learn something. And so I've been to a few setup schools, and it just seems like every time I go there, you learn a little bit more, and sometimes it's not always good things you learn. You learn that you've been doing something wrong for a while, or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's the one thing that deters me from the late model world is I just feel like there's so much, there's like in the big late model world, you race in World of Outlaws and Lucas Oil, there's like 2 chassis builders,
Yeah.
and to me, I don't care for that one bit. I wish there was 20 chassis builders and 3 cars in each. That would be ideal for me. But I know that's the one thing I like about Fountain City. MB Customs was such a big thing for so long. Jimmy's done a great job, obviously, building his brand and whatever else. But Jimmy's stuff was way ahead of the game for a long time, and then SSR kind of caught up, and they were the car to have for a long time. And then Lethal made their way in, and it's been a never-ending game. And that's the one thing I like about the modifieds. It's not okay. Well, there's 45 Rockets tonight and 2 Longhorns, or vice versa. It's like there's different cars there all the time, and that's cool for me to see, and I feel like that's a good thing for fans to see as well.
Mhm.
I don't know.
I
That's my
agree.
opinion.
I agree. I often have mentioned, and again, I think we're preaching kind of together, but I always find it cool that like if you will turn on a USMTS race, it's not just Tanner Mullins like racing
No.
Tyler Davis, right? It's Tanner Mullins racing the car he built against Tyler Davis and the car he built with,
Yeah.
TP in the car he built over there. It's man and machine. Like there's a
Yeah.
very old school throwback, or Alex Williamson in the bomb that he manufactures and stuff, and it's just like that is one of the coolest parts about modified racing is there is this difference across chassis builders, and some guys will get some stuff and they'll go this, like you said, they'll go this way for a minute, and then all of a sudden someone catches up. But like, Tanner Mullins winning a race and is the car he built, is it just means a little bit more. I'm sure you know exactly that feeling, but
Yes.
I
And I think Tanner's probably in that same boat too. I think them. Tanner builds his own engines. I know that, and obviously building his own car. But things just mean a hell of a lot more when you just do that stuff yourself. And not everybody's got that capability of obviously building engines and cars themselves. There's no way I could build a car from the ground up. I don't have time. I don't have the resources, whatever else. But I was very fortunate that Tyler gave me this opportunity to assemble cars and make some money trying to do it. And that's kind of a dream thing for me too. Um, the problem is with like my line of work, I put so many irons in the fire because when you start a business, you have to do what you have to do to make ends meet. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to.
yeah.
So, I started this deal doing body work, and then I was doing body work all summer long, all fall, and then you get to January 1st, and all of a sudden I have 15 race car bodies to do, and I bust them out, and then April 1st comes, and racing stuff kind of slows down unless somebody wrecks something, obviously. So then now I'm trying to do body work again, and then you get all the way till November, and there's no work in the collision side, there's no work in the race car side, so then I'm plowing snow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the problem that I kind of run into is I've got so many irons in the fire between the racing stuff and the collision stuff, and I plow snow. I mean, I have 75 plow accounts that every time it snows an inch or more, I have to go take care of all these plow accounts, and
Yeah.
everything has grown so immensely in the last couple of years here. I went from having no employees just a few years ago. We've been all the way up to 5, and we're back down to 3 now. Another one starting just this week. So I don't know. It's such a tough deal to get a good balance. I mean, it's crazy to see things evolve, things come and go, and the sooner you got to accept that in life, the better you'll get over it, I suppose,
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
easy way to say it. But like I said, that's the one thing you can just keep relating back to the modified world is it don't seem like one guy. Obviously there's one guy that's on top most of the year, whatever else, but it's not like there's one car that nobody else can beat.
Mhm.
It's this guy's good for 3 or 4 races, and all of a sudden this car's good for 3 or 4 races. And we had a really good hot stretch this year. We won the one at Fountain City. Had a good race with Keith Foss. Ended up beating him at the line. That was huge for me. It was the first mod win in this car that I built. And then kind of clicked off from there. We went to the Gopher 50 the next week and passed like 13 cars in the feature. Finished second to Brandon Davis, which everybody knows he's probably the hardest driver to beat in the country. So running second to him is very, very respectable. And then a couple weeks later, we went to Casson for their fair race. Never raced there before in my life. Was there running second. Leader had a mishap and ended up capitalizing and drove away for that win, which I got to beat Brandon Davis, like I said, which is very, very hard to do.
Made
So,
it feel twice as good.
yeah, especially there. Like, if anybody knows the history of Brandon Davis and Casson, it's hard to beat that guy there.
Yeah.
But, just the utmost respect for that stuff. So, like I said, we had a really good hot streak there. And then obviously we had a mod win at Mason City. We had a B mod win at Mason City. we've really had a good year, so I just hope that we can kind of keep the momentum rolling. I feel like this is the most prepared I've ever been going into an off season to get ready for next year because I'm not rebuilding a car. I'm not, rebuilding a program, not starting from the ground up.
Mhm.
Like we had a lot of issues before with all four different business aspects of having to fix this, having to start over with this, or we had some insurance difficulties here last year that we literally had to split our auto body shop from our race shop because insurance wasn't going to cover us anymore. So, we used to have everything combined in one. We used to basically take money from here, 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 throw it all into a hat, and that's what fed everything.
Float
And
everything, yeah.
we had to start completely over first of the year. Basically, we had to start a whole brand new business with the racing side of stuff and literally start with zero. I mean, we didn't have nothing to start with. We put it all together and just worked really hard. And now the racing business is actually doing better than my collision business is. It's pretty crazy how all that stuff transitions and works. And like I said, comes and goes, and you got to expect that. But it's just a never-ending ride. It's like a roller coaster. I mean, you're always gonna have downs, but you just want to, when you get on top of that wave, you just want to ride it as long as you can because you know it's
Yeah.
gonna crash sooner or
Hell
later.
yeah. Hell yeah. That's life in a weird kind of way, right? When it's good, it's good, and
Yep.
when it's bad. And the guys who tend to have more good than bad are the ones that don't get too down when it's bad, right? And don't get
Yep.
overly high when it's high and just sort of,
Yep.
yeah, heck yeah, man.
That's the one thing I've always tried to work on with myself, and I think that's part of where the Iceman deal come into is you always got to show that respect. You always got to just remain, just be you. Don't be over cocky. Don't be, whatever else. Like, I roll into the racetrack every week knowing that I'm not the best one there. I'm no better than the next guy. I just do my best to show my respect every week and try and do what I can to put on a show for my fans. And I think that's why I've probably gained a lot of respect in the last, I don't even know how many years I've been mod racing, 8 years maybe. But not even that long, I don't think. But just, I don't know. It ain't very often you see me at the racetrack running somebody over.
No, I'm not. That is for sure. I do second that. I think you are, in going forward, it's not like the right side looks like you were in a demo derby when you get there, you know. You
It usually
started.
does from the wall.
Well, that's different. That's the spoiler side.
My buddy Scuba calls me Alex the Wall Williamson.
That's
I just
fair
laugh.
enough.
He's like, "You gotta put
Uh,
the right side on that thing," and I'm like, "For what? So it'll look the same in 2 nights, anyways."
We're gonna get it all up in there anyway. Well, I think we're about to wrap it up. It's been absolutely awesome. I'm gonna hit you with two questions at once. I think one, just quickly, if you know anything as far as what your 2026 is gonna look like, we'd love to hear it if you want to share. And then two, also go ahead and just kind of, thank the people who have helped you get here so far, and shout out whoever you think is worth shouting out.
Yeah. 2026 is up in the air. Like I said, I'm hiring a new employee this week. Part of the reason we didn't go race on the road this year was because we lost most of our employees like April, May, June area, and once that happened, I didn't have a choice.
Yeah, yeah.
Right now I am the only full-time employee at my business. I have 3 part-time, but I'm finally hiring somebody this week to start taking care of the shop again.
Mhm.
So that was the part of the downfall from last year to this year is I just didn't have the manpower to take care of this place when I'm gone, and I literally refuse to close the doors, so I can go on a road and race. I don't feel like that would be very fair to my customers, and I'm very forever grateful for the people that stand behind me and understand that and respect that. Joe Duvall is somebody I look up to a lot. That man, he told me probably last year at this point, but he's like, you gotta start racing or living to race, not racing to live. And that stuck with me very hard. But like I remember a couple years ago when Cade Dillard missed a big late model race for his kids deal and whatever else, and there's two sides of everything, but I know a lot of people gave that guy a lot of grief, and I literally walked up to him at the racetrack the next time I seen him and shook his hand and told him I respect everything. Like that stuff is so cool. And
That's part of the reason that he's on the wall. That's when I became a fan
yes,
too. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. You are too, by the way. Big, huge one. You got the biggest
I see that.
one.
Um, but at the end of the day, like that's the hardest thing is people need to understand that me being here is what makes me who I am and lets me get out on the road and go race. There's nothing more that I want to do than go drive race cars. I mean, that's my life. I've literally built a business around it. That's the only reason I did what I did is so I knew I would be able to afford to go race when I want to go race. But um, my girlfriend Kara, she's been such a rock behind me for. We've been together for 9 years now, and she's just been pushing me harder and harder every year to make sure I'm staying on top of my stuff and taking care of the things that need to be taken care of here before I can, go on the road and race. And she's like, we'll just take the year, race around here, everything back in line with the business, and we'll go try harder next year. So I don't know what we're going to do yet. I'm waiting for Trenton Berry to hurry up and get something together with the Northern Lights tour. I'm sure we're going to run most of that, if not all of it. That works very well with our work schedule. And like I said, the one nice thing about the collision work is it's pretty slow in the summer. So we, our race car stuff really thrives in the summertime. So we're kind of on the fence there, waiting to hear what Todd's going to do. In an all perfect world, I wish Todd would pay 3, 5, and 10 like he did a couple years ago when he had 24 cars following. I know the tracks were kind of struggling there, but if they could find some sort of happy medium, I think that would be huge, and we would probably go that route. I miss racing on the road. I don't miss all the driving, but the people you see and the people you meet when you're 15 hours away is pretty crazy. And that's the one thing that I wanted to bring up that I forgot to, and I guess I will right now, but there ain't nothing worse than you go to your home track and you struggle a little bit and you have that hometown local drama and everybody's got something to say, and then you go 16 hours away, you go to Texas and you rip the whole rear end out of the car, you rip the front end off, or whatever. You got people coming out of the stands at midnight or 11:30, whatever it is, after the races are over, offering to help. Somebody, they never seen you before, they have no
Yeah,
idea who you are, and it's just pretty crazy the amount of people that you meet that really are good people, when you're 15 hours away from home. And
yeah,
I don't know, that's the one thing that really that has me really wanting to go back, the amount of people that I've met along the way. And um, I met a pretty good family this year back in Salina, Oklahoma. Their daughter's really sick, so we've been kind of keeping tabs with them and sending them merch here and there and just doing kind of some surprise stuff for them because they're really big fans of ours. And we just try and go way out of our way to take care of our people. But I really don't know. Waiting to hear from everybody.
kind of TBD a little still because we're in the
I
late
know
year. Yeah,
it's.
I mean that
I
the
don't know
tough
what's
part
gonna
of
happen
asking
with.
that question right now with the schedule's not really out.
Yeah,
It's hard for you to know how it
yeah,
all work. I get that, but it sounds
yeah.
like if it breaks right, a USMTS run could maybe
That's possible.
possibly. Okay, yeah. All right.
I don't know. I really kicking myself in the ass this year. I literally, I feel like we had a good shot at top three, 100%. When we jumped off the tour, we were in fifth, and
Yeah.
that really bothered me. Last year we finished ninth in points, and we didn't finish a race for the first 6 nights. So, and we didn't get any throwaway nights last year. So I knew going into this year, as long as I could keep my stuff clean, we were easily going to contend for a top 10. And obviously, I think we would have been in the top five, possibly top three. I don't think we would have won, but I definitely think we probably could have had a top three in points or top five. But sometimes life happens, and
Yeah.
I don't know. That's part of it, but
Or maybe
I don't know.
it,
I really hope that there's some bigger mod shows again. I mean, I really. That's the other thing too is I don't know. Obviously, there's a lot of things going on with some of the promotion stuff for some of these big mod races, and I don't know
yeah.
what's going to happen. Next year. I think Fountain City is probably going to have their 100,000 win for sure.
Okay.
Um, but my plan as of right now, without seeing schedules yet, is to obviously run the big paying shows when they're around. But I think we're gonna try, depending on how it works with schedule. If we do end up running USMTS on the off weeks, we're gonna try and have a car ready to go run with soda stuff, and try and expand our brand that way, and try and sell some cars and help our customers up that way a little bit. I think that's my biggest thing right now. So, like I said, it all kind of depends on what what schedules come out. I'm a big supporter of Trenton and stuff. They've always been a big supporter of mine. So hopefully things kind of work out, and Todd hopefully can come up with something to pay like he used to, because that would be. I mean, that was pretty sweet. What he was
I
doing a few years ago was pretty unreal. So if we could get back to that, that would be, or even close to that, that would be huge. But no, I don't know. That's kind of my plan as of right now. I gotta get through the dome. I gotta get through the
fair
dome and
enough.
the snow
Fair
season.
enough.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd like to go to Vado.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That would be sweet, but we're at the point right now. Obviously, anybody that's followed us all year long, I hit a deer on the way back from Lucas Oil and totaled our motorhome. I hit it. I didn't even stop because I knew it was bad. Um, Drove another 4 hours and then got
That's
out and
gotta
looked,
go.
and the whole side was ripped right off. I'm like, you have to be kidding me. So we're still in the market for a tow rig. We
Okay.
were actually going to buy a stacker right before that happened. We were kind of set up to go look at a stacker that we were going to buy, and obviously God's got plans, so we had to kind of back out of that deal, and now we're in the market for a truck of some sort. I don't think we want to go a motorhome route again, but as of right now, I ain't got a tow rig, so I got to figure that out before we go
Well, if
racing.
anyone's
So
listening, got a tow rig for sale, Alex might be a buyer.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
So
Right.
as far as the people that have been behind me, yeah, like I said, first and foremost, thank my parents. They've been huge supporters since day one. If it wasn't for them, obviously, I would have never got into this deal. Brothers, my brothers and I never used to get along, and like I said, when I said I got pushed out of the family house there, I mean we were just butting heads all the time, and we were pretty much on track to either kill each other or never speak to each other again. And it's probably the best thing that's ever happened to me is getting out and getting away. And we took some time to not talk to each other for a while, but I would say we're probably just as close to best friends now as we've ever been. So that means a lot to me. So my girlfriend, her dad. I have a ton of sponsors. Midwest Wrap, Tyler and Emily down there. They've been doing a lot. Obviously, Blackout Motorsports. Tyler is the first person that's ever walked up to me and given me a chance to sell race cars and try and make some money. So that was huge to me. Schaefer's Oil, oil sponsor. We sell Schaefer's Oil here at Windy Ridge. So that's super huge to me. Obviously, Windy Ridge Auto Repair and Fabrication, Windy Ridge Performance and Parts, KS Engineering. Kevin's been building my engines since 2014, I believe, and we run them things until they are junk. And I don't know, like he kind of gets mad at me all the time. He's like, "You gotta quit posting your stuff on Facebook. You blew up an engine." I'm like, Kevin, the thing you don't understand is it's got twice the nights on it you told me to run. You know, my last one,
I was gonna say one of the
I
most
laughed
common
so hard.
phrases I hear around the modified racing world is Kevin builds a nice piece.
Yes, he does. He does. Our last, so I think the last 4 or 5 engines that we've ran have been 70 plus nights, and most guys pull them at 40. And the one I just pulled, I think it was like right before the first week of September area in there. It's a funny story. My brother put a fresh bullet in, went out one, and I had a fresh bullet laying on the floor. So I'm like, clearly, if you put a
That's the
fresh bullet
ticket.
in and go win, I need to go do the same thing. So I did it, and the week later I won. So, but that one that we pulled out that night it was somewhere between 80 and 85 nights on it, and Kevin can't believe it was still running. But we run them so hard, and Kevin does build a very, very good piece. So. Like I said, Kara's dad, Mark Plumbing, Weir's Machine. Chad and I have been good friends for a long time. he's another one that kind of stepped up. And when I got into this whole performance and parts side of things, Chad was one of the first ones to kind of approach me, and we've been working hard. I stock a bunch of his parts here. All of the new BOM cars from me come standard with all of Chad's stuff on it. So he does build the best parts in the business. There's no questions asked there. Vanna Cream, Kelly Printing and Signs, Sea Keen Trucking. It's one of my old bosses. I used to drive semi for a while. Kurt Keen Trucking, Windy Ridge Motorsports. It's my dad. So before I actually started doing all these bodies and stuff, my dad had a racing business, kind of doing the same thing. He did it more or less on the side, but that's kind of where everything stemmed from. Bulletproof Tees. Scott Swanner, he's a pretty good guy. He does a lot of stuff for the racing industry. So 5-3 Motorsports, Matt and Tiana, their family that they do so much for my racing program. Jackson Photography, Gertis Farms, Chelsea's Creations, Bloom by Whitney, Zoom by Aaron, Rain and Sons Trucking, Kathy's Dog Grooming, Plumbers Mechanical Group. Rain and Sons Trucking has been the only sponsor that's been with me since 2009. So
that's awesome.
That's pretty remarkable there. Six Rivers Drone, Mini Escamines. I dropped off my deer. I literally just shot it this past weekend here, so dropped that off to them today.
Hey, did I see that was your
Gabby's
first one?
Bar, Ridgetop Diesel, Grandma and Grandpa, Winona Landscape, Morgan's Jewelers, Mike Kramer Painting, Caleb and Alicia, Miller Welders, Milwaukee Tool, LaJoya Seating, very nice racing seats, Ultra AVS, Smilers Repair, Kevco, The Dirt Info. We had a couple more new ones that I'm not revealing yet until the dome wrap comes out, but we've had a few come out for the dome, so we'll kind of see what happens there. I don't know.
Right on. We almost made it to the end. Almost. Dang, technical difficulties caught us right at the end. But I want to say thank you, Alex, again for joining us. Like this was way more informative and way cooler than I could have ever imagined. Like I appreciate your willingness to just talk and have a conversation and just tell us about yourself. And it's been awesome, dude. Thank you so much. And
I appreciate you having me.
of course, we're gonna probably have to do this again. You see, the problem with
That's
being
fine.
good at stuff is that you end up having to do more of it. So
Yeah, maybe you know what we should do is maybe you should just come here on a Monday every week after Fountain City races. You can get the gossip from everybody.
Oh well, I don't know
You
if
can
I.
just dirt info blow up.
There could be a whole new meaning to the Dirt Info podcast.
It'll be like an engine with 95 nights on it. It just ran 260. It'll be ready to pop.
Oh man. Well, I might have to take you up on that maybe one of these weeks for sure though. I definitely do want to come down and at least just check out the shop. I mean, I think we're close enough. I'm here in Blaine, you're down in Rushford. I don't think it's too far away.
No.
Well, are you technically in Rushford still with the shop, or are you in Minnesota City?
Shop's in Minnesota City.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. You're not
We
far.
stay closer.
We should probably make that happen. Maybe after the dome sometime we'll figure something out. I don't want to be in your way while you're prepping for that, but something to
That'll
think of.
come down. If anybody, and I tell this all the time, if there's just people that have kids that are big into the racing deal. I have some drawings and stuff of kids, whatnot. I love that stuff, but there's a lot of race fans that bring their kids and kind of tour the shop on the way to Fountain City and stuff like that, and I just think that's a pretty cool deal. So usually, if somebody brings a kid, they leave with a souvenir of some sort. So it's pretty neat. You get to spend your day in the life of a race car driver, and I know a lot of kids that really like that impact, and that does mean a lot to me. So
Heck yeah. I'll have to I'll definitely bring, so I've got two teenage sons, so they're at the stage where everything I think is cool, they think is completely and totally lame. Um,
yeah,
so it's a bit of a hard sell, but I do have one of them that's my youngest son Colton is really kind of putting some effort into iRacing to get out of the early ranks and start doing some cool stuff with that. So I think he would probably enjoy it. Maybe I'll have him come with. But I love that it's open to kids and sort of you go that extra effort to make sure the kids are getting a connection, because that's That's so. I mean, we were talking about modifieds and dirt racing and all that. I mean, I think the long and short of it is, if we don't find a way to start bringing more kids and young people into the
Yep.
sport at a rapid clip, we're in trouble no matter what we do. So, I really appreciate you, making that effort and making it something extra special for them when they come through. So,
Yeah, I think honestly, you probably, anytime they have any sort of a kids' night or anything at Fountain City, we're usually going way above and beyond to make sure that we do whatever we can for the kids that are going to be there, and that's one of the things I live for every single night after the races. There's always some kids, running down to the car and whatever else, and I literally just seen it in my memories the other day. I had a post last year about this time, thanking all of the kids, and we did a thing where we wanted everybody that had a picture with me to send them in, and we were gonna make some sort of a collage with it and whatnot. But I don't know. That's one of the coolest things to me. You go and these kids that have never got the chance to be around race car stuff get to come. So yeah, it's pretty neat.
I dig it. I dig it. Well, we'll have to do something to advertise that a little bit more, because I think that's a cool thing you're doing. Just, as they're coming down to the track, you allow them to kind of swing through and take a peek. So, um, we'll chat
Yeah.
about all that and more the next time we catch up with you, because you're going to be around again for sure. But thanks
All right,
again,
buddy.
man. I appreciate it. Everyone else, this is the part where it gets boring and I just ramble about the stuff I watched and what to look forward to. So, but uh, thanks again, Alex.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good day.
Seriously, how cool was that? Uh man, when Carter gets back, I'm screwed. It's just gonna be Alex and Carter. I'm gonna be out of a podcast job. But anyway, thanks again to Alex for joining. That was way cooler than I ever fathomed. I am so grateful that he took the time out of his day to hang out with me and talk. And listen to some of the stuff I think and feel about the sport and where we're going and stuff. So that was just beyond cool. But anyway, moving on. So I don't want to belabor the point too much, but for those who watch us pretty regularly, I do want to stay on some topics and themes that we've been following along with. I didn't want to leave you hanging. So we'll start off with this past weekend's festivities. We had the World Finals at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Um, I think for the most part, I was excited for the event, and then life got in the way, and I was only able to catch Saturday. But Saturday did have some pretty good racing. Jonathan Davenport won the 25,000 to win super late model finale. He and Huddy put on a pretty solid battle. It was cool watching them kind of jockey back and forth for position. They switched lead a couple times, and I had read somewhere along the line that JD had mentioned that he noticed Huddy's right rear was getting a little loose off of turn two, and he figured that was his opportunity to put the pressure on and get by him, and that's exactly what he did. So, but that was kind of a neat little sort of inside baseball nugget that we got coming out of that. And then speaking of Huddy, he picked up the two prelim nights. I think those are 15,000 each. But I'd also picked up somewhere along the line he had mentioned that him and Kevin Rumley were testing some stuff out and may have found something that was cooking on the shock side of thing. And as I mentioned with Alex, I'm not a technical guy. I don't like pretend to know any of that stuff, but what it's what feels so interesting to me about it is like we have this idea of intrigue and wizardry, or like to Alex's point, like there's something that you can't just call up and get right this moment going on underneath that car. And I think racing in general is just a little bit better when you have a little bit of mystique or mystery or wizardry going on and someone figures something out, and it's just kind of like their thing until someone else also figures it out instead of it kind of going everywhere. I don't know. Speed secrets and whatnot. I think it's cooler when that stuff's out there. So I don't know. Smoke and mirrors and all that stuff. Maybe it's nothing, but I dig it. And it sounds like those two are going to continue to test on some stuff. And I did see that they were announced for the Wild West shootout as well. So it'd be kind of cool to see what goes on there. As far as the sprint cars are concerned, Buddy Kofoid um, won on Saturday, and it could have been a cool race, but gravel just kind of wrecked out And that was the end of it. And then Kofoid drove away. But Abreu won the opening night, Gravel Friday night, and then Kofoid took home the $25,000 to win finale. And then on the big block side, Matt Williamson on Saturday capped off capped off his season championship with a win, driving from I think it was somewhere like sixth to first to claim the final race victory and claim the championship. He had locked that up earlier in the weekend, but he put a stamp on the whole thing. So I always think that's kind of neat when they do that. And then as far as the other two champions, there was no risk of any change, but Gravel won the sprint cars and Bobby Pierce won the late models, even though Pierce didn't run super good. That will be relevant in a few minutes here. And then the other show that I was kind of keeping an eye on was the Dueces Wild event down at Texas Motor Speedway. So the headliner for me was the American Modified or American Racer Modified Series or ARMS was down there to end their season. Kale Westover was leading the points going in, and he's the champ coming out. So congratulations to Kale on winning the season long points. But I was interested to see how many cars they'd get. They got 65, and this was after a few weeks after TMS had a different event, the Texas World Championships or something like that, and they had 70 plus mods. So um, Alex and I were talking about car cups and whatnot. It looks like down in Texas in the what do we call this, early winter, late fall, there's a lot of cars and a lot of racing going on down there, so that was kind of neat just to see how many cars they had. Cade Dillard won on Friday, and then Reese Solander, who's come a bit of a pod favorite, picked up the dub on Saturday, and Dillard ran second. And then they also had the Revival late model dirt series there as well. And Cade Dillard swept both of their nights, picking up 2,500 on Friday and 4,500 on Saturday, for a net total of 7 grand on the weekend. So of the four features he was in, he won three out of the four. Reese Solander foiled the total sweep of the weekend for Cade Dillard. But there were more sweeps. They also had the Power Eye 410 sprints in town, and Aaron Reitzel came in and took home a cool 12,000 on the weekend, winning Friday and Saturday. So that was kind of cool. I did actually catch some of that as well. Um, and Reitzel's from down that way, and he's had a hell of a season, so it's kind of cool to see him race and win that as well. And then Carter had mentioned as his one for the road that the Street Stock World Championship was happening at Why Not, and so I followed along with that a little bit. They had 62 total entries, and Caden Jackson, a 20-year-old racer, I believe, who goes by the nickname Meatball, managed to take home the $8,000 win over Tyler Nicely, who finished second and drove all the way up from 14th, and Spencer Hughes, who finished third and drove all the way up from 11th. So Caden Jackson's had hell of a season here at Why Not. I saw he won, and so I went digging as I'm one to do, and he won the Southern Street Stock Nationals and the Fall Classic there as well too. So some of their bigger events and the big fields, and this kid picks up dubs. So that's kind of neat. Someone to kind of keep an eye on down there. I don't know nothing about him, but uh, in researching his body of work says, hey, keep an eye. He didn't have a ton of starts either, something like 20 starts, and I think he won close to half of them. So he can race, that's for sure. And then that was everything I was keeping an eye on. So as far as what I've got going on this weekend, I'm done racing, uh, and so there really isn't even. I'll be probably MRP following the stuff I'm going to preview here. So there's just not a lot to consume. Um, but if I do catch any racing, it'll probably be on Flow. But nonetheless, I guess I'm bearing the lead here. We've got another football game. So as I mentioned up top, the Panthers continue to win. We are in the semifinals of the state tournament, and we play at TC or not TCF. Jesus, I almost said the Metrodome. Play at US Bank Stadium on Friday at 2 p.m. Um, yeah, they win this, and then they're in the championship game. That's how brackets work and stuff, right, guys? But nonetheless, it's pretty cool. I'm super excited. I as a junior, as my son is also a junior, I also was on a team that went and played in the Metrodome at the time, and we won our semifinal game, and we played in the state final game, and we did unfortunately get our asses kicked. But looking back on it now as a 40-year-old, that was a really cool experience that I wish I would have probably been able to enjoy a little bit more. So I think it's really neat that my kid's getting to do it, and I'm like doing my best to kind of help him enjoy the ride because in life you're only a part of cool ass shit like this so much. There's only so many times you're actually cool part of something that's actually special, and so um, you should really do everything you can to enjoy it while it's happening because you don't get those moments back. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. So I'm really pumped for this. I'm gonna be there in attendance. Funny story is I've actually coached on the U.S. Bank Stadium field, and Xavier's already played once as well too. So he shouldn't have no nerves. If they call him my kid, he'll be ready for the bright lights. I think he's already got burnt there once before. Sweet kiddo, I love you. But anyway, uh, other than that, like I said, if I do watch anything, it'll probably be on Flow, and that's because we've got Flow. Flow Racing Night in America is wrapping up their season at Senoia for the Peach State Classic. They're going Friday and Saturday for $20,000 a piece. Looking at the points, Bobby Pierce leads. It's probably not as comfortable as he was with the Outlaws. He's probably going to have to work to keep this one. He's in front of Jonathan Davenport by 48 points. And doing some quick back of the napkin math, I think that's approximately 16 spots across two races, which normally like it wouldn't feel possible with these two guys. Bobby, tends to run towards the front, but at least at World Finals, he was a mid-pack driver, and so if that continues, he wouldn't be a total shock to see JD win. It's still going to take a little bit of something. It's not like hella tight, but close enough where it could swing that way, man. And based on recent performance, there's a chance it will. So at least it's a possibility. We're not going in and crowning someone. He's got to work a little bit for it. So I dig that. And then the other thing is we do have the Turkey Bowl at Springfield Raceway. Um, this is always a neat race. I love that they have cool trophies. Cool trophies is one of those things that goes on my list of things that make me like a race more. They've got super late models going for 6,000, and they've got a full show on Saturday. They race just Saturday, and then modifieds are also 6 grand, which are notably 500 to start. So to Alex's point before, um, that's not too terrible for a start money. And they've got the run your sanction stuff, and their whole setup is they actually run double heats on Friday, and then B's in a feature on Saturday. So putting in the work for 6,000. And then I thought it was notable the B mods also run for 3 grand, and they have heats Friday, feature Saturday. There's a bunch of other classes going too, but those are the ones that I thought were interesting. This one's always an interesting follow on social media. Jerry Hoffman is a trip. He's the owner of Springfield Raceway, and he works hard on on Facebook to really promote this thing. That's not to discount all of the other stuff. I know he does. Just what I see is on Facebook, and I think he really puts out a good product, and he's got a vibe, man. Jerry's a vibe, and I dig it. And so this is really something I'll probably mostly just watch on MRP and Facebook, but I will be doing that from time to time. So I thought it was worth a mention. And there's always an interesting field that pops up there too. I will say that. Um, there's certainly some interesting names who could pop in either a late model or a modified. So it's always interesting to watch and see who kind of goes down there. But anyway, that's the things I'll be keeping an eye on. I don't have Carter here to pitch it to, and I don't even have a sound to play, so I'm not even sure what to do. So, but anyway, Josh, I guess it's time for one for the road. Um, Carter isn't here, and he didn't send me one, but I've assigned him one, so we're gonna do it. So Carter's one for the road is the duel at Mohave. He did mention this a little bit last episode that he would be here, but anyway, so we've got the duel at Mohave, which is going down at Mohave Valley Raceway, and this is a bit of a replacement for the duel at the desert, which has suffered some ill fate of recent years, and so this is sort of taking its place. But nonetheless, we've got IMCA mods going Friday, Saturday. Friday, I think, is some sort of a qualifier or a bit of a qualifier and attached to Saturday. Nonetheless, Friday is 500 to win. Saturday is $7,777 to win. We've got almost 50 drivers pre-entered in the big names that I noticed, and I'm sure there are more that I either missed or didn't recognize or anything like that. So, but nonetheless, we had Ethan Broxma, Cole Sarneski, and Troy Morris on the list that I thought was interesting. And so we could see some other names too. They had the showdown at at Central Arizona this past weekend, and we had Austin Cool and Colin Hibden and a few other people doing that too. So we may see some of those names show up here as well. It seems only fair. That's where Cole Sarneski was as well, and so I know he'll be at the Duel at Mohave. And then also notably, they have sport mods and stock cars going in support. We've got 25-ish sport mods pre-registered, 20-ish stock cars pre-registered, and they're going 500 Friday, 2,500 Saturday. So, um, kind of a cool thing. And speaking of the showdown in Cole Sarneski and anything, as a bit of a pod favorite, I did want to mention he picked up a feature win on Saturday there in a modified. So, maybe he'll head back to Wisconsin with $7,777 more dollars in his pocket. Um, anyway, and then as for mine, I think I'm a little ahead of it and probably just a little unprepared getting ready for having a podcast guest for the first time and conducting an interview and everything. So I'm slack a lacking, but I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna use one. So uh I noticed that the Wild West shootout has started. Let's try that again. The Wild West Shootout has started announcing some entries, and they've got at least 15, I think I counted. And the names are all 15 super late models, and the names are all just absolute killers. So this move to Central Arizona seems to be a bit of a boon to begin with. That I mean, those fields are always kind of stacked, but like the first 15 is basically like a who's who of Outlaws and Lucas. And I mentioned Huddy in the Rumley Six, and I just saw Davenport was announced, and Bobby Pierce is announced, and Drake Troutman, and I don't want to run through all the names, but it's just everybody. And so, um, I know we've got the dome to soak up a bunch of our attention, but after that, like we're kind of looking ahead to Wild West Shootout, and it's cool to see that the field's going to be pretty beefy already. So you can never start getting excited too much or too soon for a big race such as this. So I'll choose to start getting excited now, and then I can keep updating everyone as we go along. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap it there. Like I said, tried to keep it quick after Alex. He was definitely full of a ton of good information, so I wanted to let him cook, and so that means I tried to be short-winded, and I think I succeeded as best I can. So I might as well just end it here. If you haven't yet, please hit like and subscribe down there. I didn't mention it yet, so much appreciated. Carter's back next week, and appreciate y'all so